Okay, this is the April video chat, and the frame rate should be better. I finally fixed it again after having it screwed up for 2 years or however long it was. Uh, apparently, let's see, I should make it a bit brighter, but apparently the issue was that the exposure was not set to automatic, and every single manual setting messed up the frame rate for some reason. Like, I can understand if it was like very low or something, or because that makes sense, but I don't know. Anyway, it's fixed. That's what matters, I think, or at least fixed on my end. Yeah, so let's see. Right now, I'm still working on that long video and more Freeman. The next Freeman's Mind's going to be about the same length as the last one. That's not a trend I'm trying to make. It's just where the stopping off points are. Lost my train of thought. Not a great sign. Oh yeah, with this, I might try to start getting another game dungeon underway. I originally thought I was going to have the follow-up next, but that one's going to take a lot longer. And I thought I might get a shorter one in, but the game I was looking into looked like it might not be a great candidate. So I'm considering another one now, but I am having feelings that this other video is just taking way too long and driving me a little crazy with how long it is. However, I realized the other times I felt like that before was for the games as a service video, the GUI video, and the original civil protection. So those are all ones I'm glad I ended up making. So hopefully this one will be like that too. But progress is coming along on it, and I am gonna keep going at Freeman's Mind about half paced. And the next one will be much sooner than the last gap. I'm still kind of embarrassed how long that ended up being, but I mean the gaps in between the videos. But yeah, I guess I'll start on the questions then. And I may have to. Oh wait, I gotta make sure I don't screw up the window. Last time it got clipped a little bit with the chat. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that's about right. Let's see. Oh yeah, and I heard recently about the millennial pause. So apparently, I probably do it more extreme than most, but apparently for Generation Z, they start talking immediately once they hit record because they trust their equipment more, whereas millennials do not. Or they're just used to there being a delay when it recorded. I thought like, oh yeah, that's totally true. Like I'm definitely used to equipment not being a delay between when you hit record to when it actually starts happening. So yeah, and a few people have mentioned the FlyPy for GNOME. I'll mention that in the GUI follow-up. Also some other ideas I've had since then. So, my audio just switched mics. Let's check before I get going too far. Let's see. Audio. It should be the right mic. It might just be a weird thing with Twitch. Okay, somebody's saying it sounds okay here. Yeah, it should be used. Well, here. Yeah, it's using the right mic. Okay. It's probably just something with Twitch. Okay, yeah, so I'll start answering questions. And I may try to go faster through some of them because I noticed a few questions were pretty good towards the bottom, but only got like one vote or something. So I might try to have make an executive decision here to kind of make my way to those faster this time. We'll see. Okay, yeah, so the first one. Do you have plans to make more short stories like Stranger in Need that don't need to belong to an ongoing series? Or is that a one-time thing? Sure, but in terms of animation, almost the movie is going to have to take priority. And so don't expect much with that. But oh shoot, I keep doing that by habit. Okay. Screwing up the chat. So yeah, I mean, I definitely have ideas for more stuff like that, but animating a short is no casual thing at all, at least for me. So that can be a real-time sync. Oh yeah, next question. Ross, what are your thoughts on Steam dropping support for Windows 7 and 8? I think they haven't done it yet, but they're doing it like by the end of the year or something. Yeah, a few thoughts, because I think like a week afterwards, or maybe a few days afterwards, I read about that. I still am. I'm locked out of my EA account because I logged into Origin because I wanted to check something, and they said that like I had to update to EA app. So I did, and then it just won't let me log in at all. Like I don't even get the option to log in. It just says, and I went through like kind of a normal troubleshooting for the error it was giving me, and still doesn't happen. I haven't tried doing it on a fresh install of Windows, so I haven't gone to like complete troubleshooting because it's kind of low priority for me. But anyway, altogether, this makes me really think I should start like backing up even more stuff like offline copies, because you know, it feels like, I mean, I guess it was a while ago, but it feels like not that long ago I made the Dead Game News episode where I talked about them dropping XP support. And now they're dropping 7 and 8 support. So obviously 10 and 11 would be next. Now, not anytime soon because there's no Windows replacement for that yet. But it makes me kind of paranoid because Microsoft has been showing a clear trend towards trying to force users online only and not being able to reject updates. Now, that's still possible with 10 or 11, but they've been taking steps with it. Because I think, yeah, like with 10, I'm not certain about when 10 first released, but certainly from 2020 onward, which is when I installed it, you cannot do a local install of Windows 10 unless you're disconnected from the internet or you pull out some hacks for it. So like if you're connected to the internet when you install 10, like it forces you to create a Microsoft login account for the install. And then for the most recent version of Windows 11, there is literally no way for a normal user to install it without internet and creating a Microsoft account. Now you can do that by, I think it's like Shift F10 and entering in this command line. See, somebody's saying you can with the Pro versions. Well, not when I tested it. I mean, you still can with stuff like if you make a custom ISO, or if, you know, you enter in some command. I mean, I feel like somebody else is saying that to me. Oh, you can with Pro. Well, I installed Windows 10 Pro and it would not let me. I mean, it might have changed between builds. So, yeah, Pro versions allow you to select local account and installation. Do they do that when you're connected to the internet though? Like modern builds. I almost want to like fire up a VM while I'm talking here just to confirm this, but I'm not good at multitasking, so I won't do that. Yeah, if you have no internet. Anyway, the point is on like a modern Windows 11, like so the most recent build, there's no way you can for a normal user. Like you have to press, at one point when it rejects that, you have to hit back and then like Shift F10, and there's some command I forget, and then it'll let you proceed with a local connection. And that's with it unplugged from the internet. With the internet plugged in, I don't know. So, I mean, I have a friend who's basically convinced that, like, Windows 12 or whatever the next one is, it's going to basically require an online connection. Just that, who knows where it's going with that. So, I mean, it could be like Windows 11 is like the last stop for not requiring an online connection. There'll probably be more progressive steps, but yeah, 10 was like, if you're someone who just doesn't want Windows to screw with your settings and you're just a normal user, I'd say 7 was your last stop. I mean, maybe 8. I don't know as much about 8. But I mean, 10 was a big change, and I had to put up a lot of like defenses and research in order to kind of keep it from, just changing settings on me. So yeah, I mean, it is a reminder that, like, yeah, somebody's mentioning artificial ownership of things. The ownership is there, but you have to jump through more and more hoops. So, and for the average person, it's gone. I mean, I'm only able to do this because I have a lot of Windows experience, and was able to find research on it and jump through a lot of hoops. Like, yeah, like I installed Windows 11 on a virtual machine, and I was able to lock it down. Well, initially I installed it with no internet connection, and then after I set up a lot of defenses, I connected it to the internet through the virtual machine, and so far it's been safe. It hasn't forced an update on me or anything. But I had to do more than what I did for Windows 10. Like, I had to do everything I did to protect myself on Windows 10, and I had to like boot into safe mode and like change like 4 or 5 registry keys or something like that. I made a bunch of notes on it. So it's yeah, it's troubling, and it's making me making me more paranoid, because in reality you have many more years before Steam would consider dropping 10 or 11. However, backing up everything that is offline, like finding cracks or stuff, that might get harder by that time. So it's better to start earlier with it, with just backing up everything. Yeah, my only real loss that I can't back up. Yeah, because when I was on Origin on the account, they probably scrubbed all mention. Maybe that's why I can't log in, because I have you can see grayed out on the account Need for Speed World, Darkspore, Battleforge. Those are all like grayed out on Origin. So I think like the only game I had left that you can't run offline, at least with cracks, was Need for Speed 2015. So, I mean, thankfully I've kind of gone through the map of that. However, I want to come back to that one at some point, especially if like AI extrapolation gets better for kind of recreating the worlds. For sure, I would want to rip that map. So we'll see. But yeah, I was surprised how few people on Steam were running Windows 7 when they announced that. It was like 1.5%, and it's gone down since then. So yeah, I think I did a recent check, and like the percentage of people on Steam running Windows is about 97.7 or 97.5%. So yeah, when I talk about monopolies, that's pretty, I mean, for gaming, that's about as high as you get for not literally, for a de facto monopoly. So yes, you literally can run Linux or Mac on Steam and run games, but 97.5% market share, that's high, so it's, yeah, this particular act doesn't like scare me so much, so much as what the hell is Microsoft going to do next? That's what scares me, because they are trying to take away ownership, and for the average person, they kind of have. But I mean, I can still work with technically no if there are ways and hacks around it, but at some point that can interfere with functionality too. So we'll see. It's because modern CPUs don't support Windows 7. Yeah, maybe. For one test I was doing, Ryzen doesn't support Windows 7 like out of the box, but what it does is it'll run, but you have no USB support. And so you have to do these kind of jump through some hoops. Like what I did was I used an optical drive to install Windows, and then I used a PS2 adapter, not the PlayStation 2, different, for USB connector for the keyboard. And if you do that, then you can get it to install Windows, and then you can install the USB drivers from there. But yeah, maybe the chat knows. Like, I know the newer Intel processors have like that little core, big core stuff, which might mess up compatibility. I don't know if AMD's doing that or not. I haven't kept up. But Ross, what do you think of Windows compatible OSs like React OS? I'd have to do some research to find out exactly what that means by Windows compatible. The only thing I'm aware of that's just 100% Windows compatible, and maybe I'm even wrong about this, is running a kernel virtual machine, like under Linux or something, where like you literally need like an additional graphics adapter, and it just pipes over just about everything. Everything else, I think you might have a lot of compromises depending on what you're doing. For some things, it won't be an issue at all, like a virtual machine, but I'd have to look into that. I'm not familiar with React OS. Okay, so I'll move to more questions. Ross, in the Help Make Freeman's Mind HD video, you gave details about your workflow you're using to render the Source Engine games with motion blur. Is this workflow still the exact same nowadays? Are you using different tools or things faster and easier now? No, it's about the same. There have been some more tools since I made that. Like I think the big one was it Source 2 demo or something like that? I tested that, and that does have a motion blur option, but it's kind of both better and worse than what I use. Because like the best way to explain it, the way the motion blur is added is by sampling a frame rate higher than 30 frames a second. I found the sweet spot using my method was about 180 frames per second. And then it kind of averages them together. Now, I think there's a mathematical term for this, but it's what Source 2 demo does is like the higher your frame rate, the better the results are going to be. And for a lower frame rate, it's probably better than what I use. But for a higher frame rate, I think mine's better. I mean, not frame rate, motion. Like the quicker the motion, the better mine's going to look. And if it's like real slow motion, then or subtle motion, then Source 2 demo is probably going to look a little bit better. But to describe what it's doing, and I forget the mathematical term for this, but like say you're walking towards a tree or something, and then you walk halfway, and then you walk halfway to that, then you walk halfway again, well, so you're getting closer and closer and closer, but you're never actually reaching the tree. That's kind of what it does. So when you have real fast motion in Source 2 demo, it can create this ghosting effect, which I don't like. And what my method does is once it gets as close as it can get, it just takes that final step and guesses with motion vectors. It just looks at, okay, well, they were moving this way in these past 6 frames, so we're just, based on this motion, we're just gonna take the step and take our best guess. And that's what my script does. So that means it can handle any level of motion because for that last mile, it's just taking a guess at it and trying to blend. And I find it works pretty well. Yeah, the chats are all putting question marks. I don't know the name of it. I'm not enough of a mathematician for that, but I'm sure surely someone in the chat knows. I think. Um, so that's the main reason I don't do it. Now it can redirect the frames to a different directory, which is helpful, and it can compress it in PNG format. But I found that made the recording process much slower than if you just spit out like raw TGA files that are uncompressed. So yeah, so far it's holding up. It takes a little more work now because before I was doing it at a lower resolution and now I'm doing it 1080. So that I think I think if I remember off the top of my head, 1 minute of uncompressed footage at 180 frames per second for recording from source, it comes out to about 64 gigabytes per minute of footage. So for like the real long ones, it can get problematic. Because my SSD is only about a terabyte. I think for like the really long ones, like if I have a really long demo, I would sometimes just copy the Half-Life files over to a external hard drive where I could just get multiple terabytes, and I would just run it there and it'd be much slower. But then I could just run it, and like if it was really long, I guess I could just run it overnight because it would be slower on the hard drive than on the SSD. But no, the hold up in the last episode was all on me. It was a combination of me working on too many different things and me kind of being out of practice a bit with coming up with the right lines. Because again, I wasn't going to give you a bad episode, or at least bad in my eyes. I mean, I'm happy with a lot of the dialogue in the last one. And it's if I had just kind of forced it, I think it would have been much weaker. So, all right. So, yeah, it's pretty much the same. And next question: do you think of giving up the tradition of Halloween and Christmas episodes would benefit your work schedule? Yeah, it might, but it's like I almost see that as like the wrong direction, because I don't want to have less videos for you. I want to have more. I'm always, it's like those are ones where I just really force myself to like kind of make it in time because it has a deadline. But yeah, I have an idea for future ones. But yeah, it is getting tricky for the Christmas ones especially. Okay. If you were forced to live in a biodome sphere environment, which of the following would you choose? And the options are 10 kilometers above sea level, the sky, so kind of like Caldoria, I guess, in Journeyman Project. Though I'm not sure how far 10 kilometers is into the Earth. That might be above that might be above what you can breathe. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is. Let's see. So yeah, that might be a lot higher than something like Caldoria or Cloud City. Yeah, I guess Star Wars fans. Although I don't know what the atmosphere and the composition of the planet where the Cloud City takes place. And so Star Wars fans, like, is Cloud City above like a gaseous giant, or does it have a ground, or what's the deal there with Cloud City? So the other options are deep inside a mountain, and I forget the pronunciation, but they're saying Khazad Doom, Moria, from Lord of the Rings, and beneath. Oh no, another one embedded below ground, and they're thinking Fallout 3, but it seems like that's the same as being inside a mountain. You're both underground each way. I guess it's much more claustrophobic or tight for something like Fallout 3. Oh, okay, so somebody's saying gas giant for Cloud City. Let's see. Yeah, well, okay. Okay, I was going to say, no, they have to have anti-gravity technology for Cloud City because Luke falls, like, he's if Luke is heavy enough to fall off Cloud City, then it's not floating on the atmosphere. Well, I guess you could if you had chambers inside Cloud City with like lighter than air if they were big enough. But yeah. Okay, the planet is Bespin, gas giant. Within an area of the planet that's high enough O2. So okay, so they're still using anti-gravity tech on Cloud City. It's not like a density thing. And then the last one is beneath the sea surface, and they're saying Gungan City from episode 1 of Star Wars, or I guess BioShock would be like that. Well, I guess the only one you get sun would be the above the, floating up. However, that would, I think you would get much more radiation that way too, if you were like that high up above the surface. So, let's see. So yeah, I wouldn't want the extra radiation. The Fallout one and the Mines of Moria, it seemed like the same thing, just Moria's bigger. And then Beneath the Sea would be pretty similar, though you would have pretty great views and probably have better access to, seafood. I guess if I had to pick one, I'd probably go for the Moria one, because that one would be kind of built into the landscape as it is. So in all of these, you're putting your life and trust of the engineering. So you're trusting that the Cloud City's not going to fall, that the sea base isn't going to implode, and you're not going to get caved in on the underground ones. So if they're building it into the mountain, they can maybe work with a lot of the natural geology of it. And if they're not, then it's at least bigger than what you're getting from the sort of more normal underground bunker. Well, there's someone saying no Balrogs. Well, yeah. However, they're using Moria as an example of the architecture. So you could have I think the question assumes you could have a Balrog-free environment. Let's see. Could you use glass fiber to bring the sunlight down to the underwater dome? Maybe. Yeah. I guess what. Well, okay. That would give the. Yeah, I think the underwater one would be the most scenic out of all of them. The cloud one could be pretty great too, but you would get sea life in the underground one. Yeah, so I think so I was saying Ross isn't still thinking of buying crypto, is he? I don't think I ever was. I accept crypto. I've accept crypto donations. Because sure, that involved me putting a button up on the site, but that's different from buying it. Because buying, the stakes are a lot lower when it's free, But yeah, so. Yeah, and if we're just talking raw engineering and risk, I think I would go for the mountain for it. But if it's all completely safe and especially if we can pipe some sunlight down, I guess underwater would probably be my pick if I have like just total faith in the engineering. Yeah, I think space comes into play quite a bit with all of them, like how much room you have. Okay. If a genie took all of your hair, what is the maximum amount of money you would pay to get it back? Well, I don't know. I'm hovering around like maybe $200, though I could see my wife petitioning me to go higher, because like it could be like even if you get it back, the genie's like, okay, fine, and then I end up going bald anyway. So. But I guess I would keep my beard and mustache. But I feel like if supernatural forces are coming for my hair, even if I get out of this round, there might be another one later, so I might as well just cut my losses and just go for it. It wouldn't be like a hard stop at 200. Like, if they wanted to haggle, I might go a little higher, but let's see. Yeah, I do like how I look better with hair, but if I'm not, if the universe has other plans for me, it's not, I'm not going to die on that hill. So yeah, that's kind of what it is. It's not something I'll fight to the bitter end. I'll just deal with it at some point. I guess you can only do so much for styling if you're just totally bald, though. Yeah, and no facial hair. I'm just trying to think of like, doesn't like Moby have like very little facial hair? Let's see. Oh no, okay, no, he has kind of a beard though. Well, we can find some examples. It's just wear sunglasses a lot because you always look cool in sunglasses. Let's see. Have you heard about the game? Oh yeah, somebody's saying they thought I was going to invest in crypto. No, yeah, I'm jumping back and forth between the questions and the live one a bit. And I am familiar with Kiss Psycho Circus. I just haven't played it. It's one I might get to eventually. But no, for crypto, I think what I said in the past was, it's not clear to me what the future of it is. That could end up being better than dollars, for all I know. That's kind of been my stance on it, but I have no idea. But have you heard of the game Signalis? I think that is on one of my like 2 kind of check out and maybe put on the games list. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of games coming for the games list. I've just been making a list. I just need to sort it out and put it up, get some help putting it up on the site. Yeah, it looked like it might be good. And one of the replies to that, they're saying they know I like the older Resident Evil titles, though. Yeah, mixed feelings, but I do like them. I don't really miss tank controls too much, but I don't like hate tank controls with a passion. It's just like, oh, okay, I don't look forward to them, but I don't hate them. So, and the old Resident Evils are scary. I need to catch up on a lot of them. Oh yeah, okay, chat, weigh in. With all these remakes of Resident Evil, I think 4 is a bit superfluous, but I'm not overly familiar with the details. I just think like the graphics are pretty good in 4, for my taste anyway. Are they gonna remake Code Veronica? Because that's one I should probably play eventually, but if they're gonna remake, I'll wait for the remake on that one, because that's one that would benefit quite a bit from a remake. Because that was like a PS2, Dreamcast era, and I think they still were using tank controls in that one. I'm not sure, not 100%. I know that one's kind of like a cult classic for Resident Evil fans. So, but yeah, and also that one was a console exclusive, so that kind of shut out more people. Like if I were to play it, it would have to be on a. I literally forgot which one's more powerful, the Dreamcast or the PlayStation 2. Maybe PlayStation 2, but okay. Somebody's saying they don't think there's much worth revisiting with Code Veronica. Well, maybe, I don't know, but I know a lot of people. Oh, no, this is an okay spoiler. The Resident Evil 4 remake ended with a cutscene basically stating, "Oh, there won't be a Resident Evil 5 remake." Oh, that's too bad. Probably for the best. Well, what turned me off from 5, there were like 3 things. One, they tinted the hell out of it. However, it looked really sunny, so you can kind of get away with that for tinting to kind of, because you do have kind of natural color saturation from when you're just being blasted with sun anyway. 2, the FOV was so narrow. That's one of the few games that actually made me nauseous. I played the demo of it, And the third was, I heard it was like way more action oriented. And in my opinion, that hasn't been Resident Evil's strength. Resident Evil is at its best when it's scary. So if you have like a lot of action and out in the sun, that's not as scary with it. But maybe I'll give it a shot. You could probably hack the FOV now. But yeah, that was one of the few games that actually made me nauseous, like trying to play it. That wasn't in VR. You know, VR has a lot of, I'm sure has a lot of candidates, but so yeah, Signalis. I'll probably add it. I need to look at it again to make sure it's something I'd be interested in. But yeah, I'll probably add it to the list. Let's see. Back in, hey, actually must have skipped over this one. Back in 2007 or 8, you had a fan meetup. I remember you were kind of disappointed with the turn up. How was the experience? Would you do it again? I was just, the disappointment was because I wasn't able to put that on the videos at the time, so it ended up being a real small turnout. I wasn't disappointed with the people. I mean, it was fun. Yeah, excuse to go to an amusement park. I would be fine with doing that again. However, there's more stuff that would have to align because now I'm in Europe, which most of my fan base is going to be in USA. And my wife would have to kind of be okay anxiety-wise for it. And the pandemic, I mean, I guess it's kind of tapering off, but that kind of dampened a lot of things. But yeah, I'm still up for it. Well, and the other thing is the expenses, especially if I had to go to USA for it, because it's not cheap flying. So, but no, I mean, I like the idea. It's just a lot of logistics can kind of dampen it. And I almost feel like this is a spot to start picking and choosing the questions. They're saying, what exactly is a photon? And maybe someone's forgetting that I'm not actually a physicist. I'm just voicing Freeman. I am going to have no insight as to that, to what it's helpful. Although I know once you get down to like stuff on, well, I guess photon is energy, but you know, with this, my first thought after seeing that question is, you know, once you get down to like the atomic level and the subatomic level, it's like, do we even really know what it is exactly? I mean, it's almost just like fuzzy particles that kind of together make things happen. And we don't, do we really, actually, some people probably do know this, but they've probably spent half their life studying it. But because I just had a thought, again, very ignorant stance here, but I'm thinking, like if you look at the size of an atom, I've heard it explained that like the actual matter that's in there is like so incredibly small compared to the empty space. But I was thinking with the empty space, I mean, with electrical charge, like, you know how if you press on like repelling magnets, like you feel a real pushback. Well, what if it like kind of everything is like that? And then in which case, like maybe nothing's solid at all, even at like the tiniest level. So it's like, what the hell are we? Or what is matter? So that's one of those questions where you need much to get a more informed answer. You need someone much more studied in this, educated on it than I am. That's one of those things where, yes, exactly. That's where I was going. The chat saying doesn't matter. That's one of those things where, you know, I just don't worry about it too much. I mean, some things I want to learn more about because I think they can be fascinating, or because I'm more interested in like how, what this can be used for. But other things, it's like, yeah, it's interesting, but you know, I'd rather leave this to people who find this much more interesting than I do. So. Yeah, see, somebody's saying matter isn't real. Go deep enough and all particles are wavelets of energy. Yeah, maybe, though. That, I think, Yeah, because something like string theory isn't proven, so things get very weird once you get down to the atomic level, or like anything involving the speed of light, or again, we're talking about photons here. It all gets, it's all this sort of thing where I'm the wrong person to think about this too deeply. So when somebody's asking in the chat, would I ever step into a teleporter? I would have to have it explained to me in a way that I was convinced that I'm not basically dying and an exact copy of me is being recreated on the other end. I might be kind of boomer on teleporters if those got invented, and would just want them for, teleporting matter around. I mean, I wouldn't stop other people if they wanted to use them, because they would be fine from my perspective, but let's see. Have you tried making AI art, written or images? Not yet. Well, actually, I did a little bit, but like I tried to create like Cyber City images, and it was okay, but I think I probably tried it at the wrong time, because a whole lot of stuff was gated or paid walled at the time, where you have to be on a waiting list. And now it's more exploded, and now I've been kind of busier with other things. But I'm still planning to run a whole hell of a lot of stuff through it, just to convert wallpapers by like 99% actual artist, and just kind of convert them to ultra wide format. So it is what I plan to use it for. But I'm sure there's a lot of other applications. I mean, geez, I might even be able to use it for the movie for creating textures, because I was originally thinking I was going to have to, just pull everything from existing assets that I had permission for. But I guess I might not need to for that, but whichever looked better. The most stuff I've been doing with AI is I've been spending time trying to do sort of these stepping stones for converting 2D stuff to 3D, where I think it's called monocular depth estimation. And I've been trying to do that with video, where if you take like 2D video, like especially from game footage, and you can run it through the processing, it does a better job than you would think, converting that to 3D space, and then it generates a depth map. And then with the right software, you can have it play back. I think it's called, well, I've heard it called a few different things. One is volumetric video. Another one is 6DOF video, 6 degrees of freedom video, where it's basically playing in 3D space. However, since it's just using it as a depth map, if you start looking from side to side too much, that's not going to look so good. But if you're looking like, if you want to get closer or farther back, that tends to look pretty good. Yeah, one person I was talking to called it sort of like an animated relief sculpture. It can look impressive. So yeah, the best one right now is, in my opinion, that I've seen, is Midas 3.1. Like another one got better than Midas, but then Midas 3.1 came out, and it's better. However, I used this script on Virtual Dub, temporal smoothing, where what it does is it kind of averages all the frames before and after, because what it's not good at right now is video, because it'll be pretty accurate for still shots, but then in video, it can kind of fluctuate in the depth, and that looks pretty bad. So it's, let's see. So by averaging that, it kind of smooths it out, it's not quite as accurate, but then it's like less crazy with the fluctuation. But yeah, no, AI is gonna, I'm I mean, my number one interest in AI is what I described in the Dream software video, because I think we go far enough, or maybe we're getting pretty close. It's just not it's kind of haphazard and not quite there yet. But I think AI is going to save game worlds and then maybe even save some games, because as insane as it sounds, I think it would be easier. Like, take a game that's like gonna get shut down at some point in the future, but you could rip all the maps and models and most of the assets from that using AI extrapolation, so that it wouldn't be exact, but it might approximate that. I think it would be easier for diehard fans to basically recreate the game from ripped assets in something like Unreal or Unity than it would be to try and reverse engineer server software. And the thing is, you would make more you would make more gradual progress. So because if you're 90% there with a server emulator, you might still have an unplayable game. Whereas if you're 90% with like converting assets and recoding, you have 90% of a game. So it's that's my number one interest. And then there's other stuff I want to use it for is again, the out painting, like I talked about. For enhancing the old kind of 22 kilohertz ACM wave file crappy audio music. I mean, it sounds dumb. I want to use it at some point to remove laugh tracks from certain shows that I'm interested in, and watch them like that, because I always kind of hate laugh tracks. Or inversely, for some films or shows that never had a soundtrack release, try to use it to remove all the talking and the sound effects and just try to get the music. Oh yeah, there is a example of that sort of thing where, well, this was easier. You probably didn't even need AI for this. But it's similar to what I'm talking about, where they had an old Simpsons episode where, where Homer's saying, "Oh, I used to watch, I used to listen to like heavy metal music, and it didn't have any effect on me." And then you cut to Homer's view, and then Marge is talking to him, going, and all you hear is like this ringing in his ear, like like he has tinnitus or something. And somebody went and filtered it out and boosted the volume to find out what Marge was saying. And it was kind of funny. It was something like, it's just like, oh, okay, but don't take any influence from the band's clothes or lifestyle or substance abuse or politics or really anything, really, or something. Yeah, so that was the joke that they had buried in there that people didn't get to hear until decades later. But yeah, AI is awesome. It's especially with multimedia, or it won't be me, or yeah, well, actually, maybe it will be for this part. Fingers crossed, by the time I'm like neck deep in with the animation on the movie, maybe it'll make some things easier for animation, or maybe future stuff after the movie, where I could like dictate scenes. That would be amazing. Or I could just say, okay, have this character walk to here, have him do this kind of pose, and then just do the manual stuff for adjustments. It could really open up a lot of doors for animation work. So, but yeah, for other things, I'm interested in what people are going to do with it in games. I mean, there's a lot of possibility. Like I think I mentioned earlier, you could have much better NPC dialogue. Another use I thought I forgot to mention was much smarter opponents in something like a first-person shooter. Because it's in first-person shooters, it almost feels like we peaked with AI in Fear or something. And like, maybe there's a few games I haven't played, but yeah, you could have like much smarter bots with AI. I think that could be fun. I've heard people, I've seen an article saying, we don't really want like smart opponents. I think it depends on the player and what their tactics are. I think what people don't want, or most players don't want, is getting sniped halfway across the map by the AI, where you have no idea where it came from, unless that's like the point of the game is to like really be like spotting everything. But I mean, if they had like an ambush or just did tactics you didn't even think of, like, or hey, something I would like to see, have more realistic behavior where if you mow down one henchman, the rest scatter. And like, they don't just kind of stand there shooting because yeah, it might not be satisfying for like a shooting spree, but you could see that like you got under their skin, like they're like, oh god, and everybody's running and taking cover, like because you don't usually get that feeling too often in first-person shooters, where you feel like you're scaring the enemy when you're good at it, you know, and that could be kind of satisfying, I think, or just hey, have some of them maybe have like your more common henchmen just bug out. Like they see enough guys mowed down, they run, and that's it. They are no longer your enemy, and like it's rare to see that in first-person shooters, but that could add a level of realism to it. Somebody's talking about like. I mean, you could tune it for like what players are looking for. I mean, if they are looking for sort of your action movie experience where, everybody's just gonna gun at you at all times and never retreat, then you could have that. But it could be fun. I might have to play this. I think I'm gonna have to play Dishonored at some point, maybe with a reshade filter so I can undo the tinting. They're saying you can feel enemies getting scared more and more, map after map, depending on how many kills you make. Yeah, I always thought that's what. Yeah, I'll have to check out Dishonored. I always thought that's something that's missing from a lot of stealth games. I feel like it should be a reward if you're really stealthy, to like get under the skin of the enemy. Like that could be like part of the story where you're like freaking out the main villain or something. Like, how did they get this deep behind? I really think that's underutilized in stealth games. Like you need your enemy freaking out if you're really good at stealth, because this was supposed to be the impenetrable fort, and yet you've taken out a dozen guys, stolen the intelligence, like set off a booby traps or something, and like you're just a complete ghost. Like that should freak out the enemies, because then they don't have, or better, you could even spin it to think that they have like somebody on the inside helping you, whether you do or not. It might make the villain more paranoid. Yeah, I really think that, and I feel like stealth games are the best for that sort of thing, because like you're doing things that you shouldn't have been able to make it this far from their perspective, But yeah, no, I'm sure there's all kinds of, and this is just the fun stuff with AI. I mean, probably the best use of AI so far is using it to try to find cures or treatments to diseases. Like I've heard that's why the vaccines were able to come out so fast, is because there was a lot. It's the sort of thing where, like, I mean, my understanding of this is very shaky, but it's the sort of thing where for some applications in medicine, you might have to test like thousands of samples manually with like different variations to find that like 1 in 100,000 combination of things that a disease that fights back against a disease or works around it. But with AI, that can just kick open doors where you can test many times more of that in a much shorter amount of time. So yeah, it's a lot of interesting things ahead on it. Let's see. Okay, well, if you had the ability to collect music of any format, what would you pick? CD, vinyl, cassette tapes, or other? I mean, I've been pretty fine with just digital. I mean, because, I mean, I never really did a lot with vinyl. I mean, I know some people say that it can be better because it's like an analog sound instead of digital. I never really listened to it analytically, I guess, to compare it to digital. It's probably subtle. I remember them. I remember pops. I mean, my parents have plenty of records, but I mean, I lived through cassette tapes, and for sure, digital is higher quality than that. Uh, the CDs were definitely nice for audio quality. For portability, though, actually cassettes were nicer because CDs were bigger. There were more there were faster moving parts than a cassette player. Like cassette player was better for portable, but now I mean I just use my MP3 player when I'm going out. And I need to do some experiments sometime to see where I can, how much compression is good enough. I guess if you were going for ultimate, yeah, somebody's saying Discman skipped all the time. Yeah, I think you had like mini disc as sort of like a intermediary thing, but once MP3 players started coming out, that was like the clear winner. But yeah, but for portability, CDs and mini discs, those weren't. There were some compromises. But let's see. Yeah, I guess maybe they still have them. I don't even know. I know at one point you had DVD audios, which were basically like 48 kilohertz, 24 bits. I think you had supported surround sound too, so that would be like the ultimate kind of physical version. Although not even that necessarily, because then you could just have something like FLAC format on, just burn that to a disc if you wanted physical. So yeah, I mean, if I don't notice the difference, I'm not too picky, but I'm not sure where the compression level is for me. I'll have to do some experiments sometime. Yeah, feel free to recommend songs or tests that are really good at exposing weaknesses in compression. So, because it might be different for the format. Like some are going to be more for MP3, others might be better for OGG or OGG Vorbis or AAC or something. But let's see. Okay, this one's a compliment. Thanks. I never really know what to say to these, but I figure people aren't tuning in to watch compliments towards myself. I wouldn't want to watch that, so rather get to more interesting questions. Well, that wasn't even a question, but thank you. I'm just not the best at taking them. Do you have any tips for low-cost equipment in regards to audio or video recording for content creation? I'm sure there are probably better YouTubers to give you recommendations, this sort of thing. With me, I've sort of just stumbled around with this myself. I can give you a few tips I'm fairly confident of, though, because they're talking about they thought they have to upgrade their mid-range PC, buy expensive mic and sound mixing board, expensive software, etc. I can tell you where probably the best application of your money should be if you're looking to upgrade stuff. For PC, I'd say you wouldn't have to do too much, because like some upgrades are going to be much more incremental than others, in my opinion. I'd say first just do a recording on your PC and listen to how it sounds. If you have like a constant hum or something, or it's like real noisy, then maybe you can pick up some noise from motherboard audio. What I use now is a Focusrite DAC, with a digital audio converter, and that also doubles as a headphone amp and triples as like a special microphone connector for like the XLR connection to the mic. So moving it away from all the electronic noise can make a difference. But again, check it yourself and see how it sounds. For where you put your money, headphones and microphone might be the place to put it, but again, look at other videos for like budget options. Like for headphones, like I think one of the earlier ones I had, which I remember the quality being great, but the headphones snapped, and this is kind of true of I think this might actually be their business model for Sennheiser stuff, but the Sennheiser HD280 was pretty great for, or at least I remember it, for doing like studio stuff, but the headphone probably will snap. So the headband, not the headphone. So you might need to figure out like a way to reinforce that or something. I think that's true of a lot of, that's been my experience with Sennheiser stuff, is they sound great and the headband is going to snap over time. Well, right now I have for headphones, I have this one's a little pricier, the Bayer Dynamic DT700 Pro X, but that's very similar to the DT770 Pro, also a Bayer Dynamic, and these are very durable. Actually, the older one might even be more durable. You won't have issues with that, but I guess check your price range. There's another one that's cheaper that I've heard a lot of people say is good. I think it's like the Sony MDR V6 or something like that. It's like there's another one. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but there are budget options that are pretty good because you do want good headphones, because if you don't have those, then, or I guess speakers too, but if you don't necessarily know what's bad without good headphones, but it doesn't mean you need to go to the moon and back for quality. I'm trying to remember. I forget what the brand is. I want to say it was something with a K. But yeah, checking my notes, but they're all a mess here. But yeah, there's other people who are more specialized in audio that could give you. No, it wasn't Koss. I had a bad experience with Koss, but it could have just been the model I had. But yeah, there's people who know more about headphones and audio equipment than I do. And what I have now is a popular one, but it is kind of pricey, is I forget the name of it, this mic. I think I have this on the website. Okay, I think it's like the Shure S7MB or something like that. And I have a different one for this mic, which is an AKG one. I think I might have had a mic before that on one of the other video chats that was similar to the Shure one, but it wasn't quite as good, but I've recorded a lot of the videos on that. So check other YouTubers. For software, it probably depends on what you're doing. I mean, I use like Adobe Audition now, but you could use old versions of that. And before that, I was using Cool Edit, which that's what Audition is based off of, that they bought. That was like back in the 90s even. So, but if you're doing stuff like music mixing, you'd probably want something different. And you might in terms of quality, I mean, even probably something like Audition or just would probably, I mean, not Audition, Audacity would probably be fine. I mean, just get your foot in the door and just test stuff. And then you could like look in the features and see if you need something else. There's probably better channels that talk about this sort of thing. That's their whole bread and butter is audio mixing. Look up probably just a YouTube search on like best budgets audio stuff. I would save stuff for the computer and mixing. I would do that last, and I would probably recommend a DAC over a sound card, just because it feels like I've never had an add-in sound card that has good drivers. The drivers are just great, dependable. They won't screw up on anything. I mean, I've had sound cards with fantastic audio quality, but the drivers there always seems to be something. So, but yeah, I think the gains even over motherboard audio might be minimal, but it depends. Just I would focus on mic and headphones first. So, and even then, you could probably keep the price pretty reasonable and still get like 95% of the quality of something pricier. Yeah, okay, while we're on audio, I might as well mention, just for kicks, if I were to try to get better closed back headphones than the Beyerdynamic, like what would you get that's, or is just like anything better than this that's closed back, just priced to the moon? So if you are an audiophile, I'm just curious what people would recommend, but because I mean I don't have the budget to like experiment with this stuff. So okay, oops, lost my place a bit. Have you played The Longest Journey? Yeah, I played several hours into it. I just want to need to finish and go back to. I got as far as the police station. I think I just got out of the police station was where I still have all my saves, so I'll resume it at some point. It was interesting. I mean, it's an intriguing storyline. I like how, like, you're kind of swapping back between the sort of, stylish future versus the fantasy world. I actually was more interested in the, so I was saying the HD 580. Are those, and the, yeah, but Sennheisers most of them are open back. I kind of like having the isolation, but yeah, longest, yeah, it's for sure what I'm gonna finish eventually. But yeah, I was liking it. Let's see. Okay, so I was wanting a recap on like what exactly the movie is. Okay, the movie is going to be, it's going to be like a 3D kind of machinima video, kind of like what I did with Civil Protection, but it's going to be like a full-length movie, have like its own plot. And it's going to be a comedy adventure. It's going to have a medieval fantasy setting for it. It's like, out of all my ideas, I feel like this is the strongest one I have. And if I decide I never want to animate anything again after this, then I at least want to burn out on this because this is a solid idea. And I do have other, maybe even better ideas, but they would take even more work. And this is something I know I can get done. So, and I'm running so badly behind schedule, but this year, 100%, at some point, I'm just probably going to take months off exactly from the regular videos and just spend time on the movie. Although I'm getting a lot better at this half-paced or third-paced Freeman's Mind stuff, so maybe I could break my rules and just keep Freeman's Mind going at a slow pace while I'm just working just all in on the movie and just do like a little bit every day on it. Because that was what I ended up doing for this one. Oh yeah, and the next one's, it's like about 20-25% done at this point. But even then, once I'm done with the voice audio, I'm getting help with the sound effects and the volume balancing. So there'll be a delay after that. But let's see. But yeah, when I eventually get it made, I think it's going to blow away everything else I've done, at least by my own personal standards. Yeah, if you're someone who just likes Freeman's Mind or just likes Game Dungeon and don't like the more like original stuff I've done, then you might not like it as much. But for sure, you'll see why I was obsessed with getting it made, I think. And the other question, they're saying they've noticed in the last 6 years, I've started pronouncing stupid like stupid with a T, or stupid. It's possible. I could be unconsciously changing my accent. Or it could also just be a filtering thing with how much I filter out or leave in sounds on the recording. So it's hard to say. You guys might be more conscious of the changes than I am, but let's see. Oh yeah, you've always said that you play games mainly for escapism. Do you feel like it will always be this way for you? And they're saying they used to think the same way, and was agreeing in their late teens, but their early 20s, and I don't want to escape anything. I've also become completely uninterested in story-driven games, and I only want beautiful, simple, and fun games. And they feel like they're generating from a PC gamer to a more casual mobile gamer with age. No, but I feel like escapism can cover a lot because, well, yeah, see, somebody's saying they don't play, somebody below this is saying they don't play games for escapism, but for many reasons, including inspiration, wanting to explore possible worlds, and some of the best stories around. Well, I mean, maybe inspiration might be a little different, but wanting to explore worlds and hear great stories, that I would put that under escapism. Like, I mean, it's like, because then you're engrossed in what you're doing and you're not really thinking about the real world. You're thinking about like this game world. So I would lump that all together. And inspiration can be a little different, but I will say for story, it's, well, I may have to open the door more in the future and get a little dizzy. For story, it's very rare that I'm impressed by the story. And a lot of games, I'm just kind of like, I'm curious what they're doing, but I'm not like, oh my God, I have to see, like, this is amazing. I can't, it's pretty rare when that happens. I'm having trouble thinking of like what the last one I played was like that. Puzzle Agent, I really like the story too. Silent Hill 2, I was pretty intrigued. System Shock 2, I liked it. Subnautica was mostly like that. I feel like the story got kind of weaker towards the end, but all those games, it was kind of the cumulative experience too. I mean, that said, for casual games, I still like casual games if I enjoy the gameplay. Like if it's something simple, but I find a lot, like I'm thinking of one, I mean, I don't even know if this would count as a casual one, but I played that one, what was it, Death Trap? And that was basically kind of like a tower defense / RPG, action RPG game. And I didn't care at all about the story to that, and there really wasn't much to it. I didn't even like the aesthetics that much because they had tinting in that game. I didn't really like it, but I did enjoy the gameplay. So I was just playing that for the gameplay. So, I mean, I can play games like that too. Most I usually have to like the atmosphere also. But a lot, but story, for some types of games, even if it's like a real basic story, that can kind of keep me going. And like I'm thinking, like maybe I can think of an exception. Well, I guess I can. I'd say there's a very high ratio of real-time strategy games that if they don't have a story, I'm probably not that interested in them. However, if the gameplay is really good, then sometimes I can go without a story. But I really appreciate having that, even the bare minimum kind of campaign where I get a little bit of story once the mission's done, that sort of thing. Yeah, somebody's saying Death Trap is a spinoff of Van Helsing games. Yeah, I played that one, those too. But yeah, it just kind of varies. But what I'm looking for in games is to like really just kind of be sucked in and engrossed by the experience so that I'm forgetting about the real world. And you can get there in multiple ways. Sometimes that can just be atmosphere. Like some driving games can be like that with me. Yeah, I mean, some I'm like, really, I'm like basically sweating because the races are so close. Others, I'm just kind of taking in the environment. So it can, some are story, like adventure games tend to be mostly about the story for me. Others are gameplay, which can be variety of genres or mix and match. But yeah, I think the thing about casual games is those, or I really think there is something to that. What was it from that Commodore 64 magazine, the hookability rating? I think we should bring that back, the hookability, because a lot of games, they can be great games, but they can have a serious learning curve. And sometimes if you're looking to relax, you are not in the mood to basically take what amounts to like a second course on like how to play the game. And you want something you can just jump in and start playing immediately. So I think maybe it could be sort of that for what you're wanting, that you just want a really fun game with good gameplay that you can just get started immediately. And if it has, there really is something to be said for introducing players to different concepts, like as part of the game. Like, I mean, there's plenty to do a good job at this, but one that popped into mind was StarCraft 2. I thought it did well, actually probably a lot of Blizzard games. They do a pretty good job of like kind of trickling in the concepts to add the complexity so that by the time you get something new, you're ready for it. And that can be a tricky balance for devs. But yeah, it's still the same for me. And the other thing is I have gotten pickier. Like if a game has gameplay I'm not really enjoying, but again, I'm curious about the story, then I'll drop it to think like, okay, I'm just gonna watch a playthrough of this one because that can happen more frequently. But it's because I want to carve out the time for the really good stuff. Like it's not that I'm like I don't want to get through games as fast as possible. However, but I do want to go through as many games as I can that are go through as many games as I can until I hit a real winner. That like I am loving this game, and I'll spend it's just something I'm going to return to again and again, and I'm loving the gameplay, and this is great. In which case, okay, then I'm ready. I'll just want to stay stuck on that for a long time. Like I remember, like I enjoyed the gameplay a lot of the gameplay towards They Are Billions. That one was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's one I would want to return to at some point. So, and other games I like a whole lot, but then I remember them pretty well, and I don't really want to return to them until probably many years from now, where my memory's kind of faded. But yeah, my attitude on this is I have this giant games list I'm trying to get through. So once I've experienced, someone's saying minimal grind. Yeah. Yes, unless I'm enjoying the grind. Dungeon Siege, I like the grind. The grind was great. That didn't get old for me. A lot of games, the grind can get old for me. Yeah, minimal grind. That's a good way to put it. Unless it's fun. But my attitude is there's so many promising games out there that I want to like go through these and make a decision on them pretty quickly. That, okay, am I digging this game enough to want to play through it? Or does this game almost have me? And maybe if I get like a trainer or a cheat engine, I can tweak one or two values and then I'll really enjoy it. Or again, the gameplay is just not there and I'm going to go through a playthrough. So I might want to loop back eventually to games I played a bunch or played before, but I figure, well, I should go through all these other games I haven't played first. And it seems like that list, it just keeps going. So we'll see what happens. But Yeah, I am trying to be like I ended up giving up on Iron Harvest. Like I made it to like this big railway map. And the thing about Iron Harvest is it's kind of blurring the line between uh, real real time strategy and tactics almost. Like I like the sort of classic real time strategy games where you build a base and amass your forces and then go out and try different strategies to try to conquer the map. Whereas Iron Harvest was more like you have one squad at the beginning. There were a lot of missions where you have one squad and that's it. And you have to make them work. You have to make this work. I don't like that because it's, well, one, I like building a base and having amassing an army and not just a squad. But the other thing is those are a little less forgiving of errors. Whereas if if you have a big base building mission, you can afford some losses. You can afford to have some cannon fodder. So so that's one I ended up just caving in on, and I just watched the full campaign of a playthrough instead. It was interesting, the kind of the campaign actually. And I love the design of all the mechs. Like because each country has their own style for the mechs. But I mean, it was a decent game, but man, it was getting hard too. I may not be as good at that kind of gameplay. However, another game I finally got around to playing through that I did play through legitimately was Command and Conquer. I finally got, and even then that was kind of a mix for me because I really don't like the you have one squad and make it work missions that much. Whereas I like the base building missions a lot. Whereas like for all the Command and Conquer, I'm sort of skipping through some of the Command and Conquer stuff now, where I want to watch all the cutscenes. The cutscenes are very entertaining for just pretty much all the Command and Conquer games so far. I see now why I see now why Kane is such a like notable figure. Like he has a charisma to him. Yeah, if anything, I think that's my only criticism of Command and Conquer is it makes the GDI side like it's more fun being on Nod. Like just in terms of the atmosphere of the cutscenes and everything. So yeah, I think Command for all the base building missions, I enjoyed those a lot. Although I did play the remake version because I got that really cheap for was it $2.30 or something. So yeah, why not? Kane is the Citizen Kane of gaming, sure. Yeah, there's some great quotes in there too. Like what from God to Cain, Cain to Seth, and Seth to you, or something, or Cain to me and me to you. Like, or what? There's another one I liked. Ah, geez, but I forgot it. But yeah, it's from God to Cain, Cain to Seth, and Seth to you. Yeah, so far the Command and Conquer ones, they're doing, they're sort of, they're overacting done right, is what I would say. Like, they're kind of hamming it up, but they're doing it just right, is my opinion. So I like that if it's done well. Or they'll mix a little bit between like more realistic action versus like over the top stuff. It's good. So yeah, I didn't get into Red Alert as much, but I ended up watching the cutscenes of it. And yes, same for Tiberian Sun. That one, I tried a few missions, but it was laying on the squad type missions heavy, and I was thinking, geez, I don't know. I'd rather be playing They Are Billions for this kind of gameplay. So I just watched the cutscenes, and now I'm on Red Alert 2, but I haven't gotten that far at all. So yeah, so the chat's saying Command and Conquer cutscenes is like porn acting. Yeah, but it's quality for what it is. They know what they're doing. So I'm grinning watching some of these. Okay, so yeah, more questions. Okay, we just have a food question. These make me hungry, so I'm gonna start picking and choosing now. Oh yeah, well this sounds interesting. Yeah, opinions on the retirement age. Do you think we will fix the problem of the minimum age being increased, or will we be doomed to work until we are dust? I almost want to say, like, it's like a magic 8 ball, like, the answer hazy or something. Yeah, because there have been big protests going on in France because they raised the retirement age from 62 to 64. And honestly, I mean, the protest, that's what's needed for all kinds of issues. I'm glad they are doing that. So I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. But it could be we're playing games with the economy so much that, like, even if everything's going right, the retirement's still not going to work out because it might be, it might not be mapped to inflation or something like that. So, and it's kind of complicated too because, well, this is assuming the economy stays as it is, which I don't think it will. Like, my perspective is by the time I'm retirement age, things are going to look a lot like Soylent Green. So I don't even know what that plays out like. But yeah, who knows? Maybe my retirement is on a compound with a lot of you somewhere, and we're growing food for all we know. Like, but we won't have to have 9 to 5 hours, or at least the farming keeps you pretty busy. Though farms are usually small. You have, if you have everybody pitching in on farming, maybe you wouldn't have to have so many hours. So, I mean, I don't know. But so I'm not holding my breath on it. But what I was gonna get at was, like, let's assuming the economy stays stable and we don't have runaway inflation, which I don't think I would bet on that. I mean, I'm not even sure what the real inflation rate is. Where they calculate it by not kind of gaming things with the unemployment rate, so they do it by the same standards we were using like in like the 80s. Because they kind of game things with modern inflation calculations, or at least I've heard, where they'll say, like, okay, like this refrigerator costs, I forget how it works. Yeah, that was it. It's like, okay, your apartment size is smaller, but then your TV takes up less space, so that makes up for it, or stuff like that. The TV's flat now, so you have more real space, and like, there's like a whole, I think they don't include some things like education or there's something. So anyway, if you do it by, I forget what the inflation, I think it's double digits if you like calculate it by like 80 standards. So, someone's asking, how are food prices in Poland? Have you noticed anything in particular? Yeah, they've gone up. I haven't checked exactly which item. Like, some items are still pretty good as far as inflation. Like some produce, other things are like a lot higher. Like, let's see, what was like butter's been higher for me. Cheese, that one's gone up. Let's see, somebody's asking, when does Freeman sleep or eat? Well, I made he got a nap and had a snack in the first one. I made some space for him, but yeah, okay. So what I was gonna say, like I was thinking, like with Social Security, it's maybe somebody's seen an honest assessment of this, because like the dishonest take on Social Security is just to say flat out it's a pyramid scheme and can't fund itself, full stop, and no details. However, that's kind of dishonest because the way Social Security is done, there's a cap on it where I think like the upper cap right now is something like maximum payment of like $10,000. So what that means is, let's say, now for most of us, I'm assuming, for me for sure, it kind of scales with your income. Like if you're self-employed, it's like 15%, I think. But like, let's say you're like a doctor or a lawyer and you're bringing in like, low six figures, or or let's keep it safe. Let's say 175,000 a year. So you're like a doctor or a surgeon or an attorney, so that you've done a lot of graduate school, so you're earning an amount. I think you pay about 10,000, or between you and your employer, pay about 10,000 in Social Security. So it's, however, let's say you're a hedge fund manager and you brought in 10 million last year. You pay about the same amount, $10,000. So it does not scale past that point, past about like lower upper class level or upper middle class level. So I don't know how long Social Security gets funded if you were to just make it all proportional. So that if you are bringing in millions, then you do have to pay that. Then you do have to pay what, somebody working at Burger King or somebody, working as a teacher or something gets paid, like, more middle mentality, because somebody's saying we shouldn't have an us versus them mindset because it's just a guarantee against social cohesion. No, I think you really should, but I think there's a clear metric. Or maybe somebody would refine it. The us versus them, if you have so much wealth that you're literally paying lobbyists to change the law in your favor, then I think that's fair game. So like anybody who's not using their money to do that, like to change the law to like do stuff like, I don't know, like defund food stamps, or what are some other things? Or like raise tax brackets at your level, at like the middle class or lower working class level. Or let's say somebody's wealthy, but you're just not really paying attention to politics and you're just partying all the time with your wealth or something like that. You're not exactly the problem. Like I think if you're using your money to change the law in a way that is clearly not favorable for the majority of the population, that's the cutoff. That's the us versus them. So, yeah, I mean, if you are paying a lobbyist, then it's, I think that's a good metric. But yeah, if you're actually changing the law, I think that's a good metric. But so yeah, with retirement, I am all for people not having to work as much. So that means less hours per week, less hours per day, so you can, retiring earlier, having more vacation. I am all for that for everyone, even for the stuff that just would have no impact on me, because I mean, I'm basically self-employed / freelancing / relying on begging income. So if people drop the number of hours they're working per week, that doesn't affect me directly at all. But I've had enough jobs that I wouldn't want that for more people. And I think we're producing copious amounts of product. Well, I mentioned this a bunch of times. We do need a certain amount of work just to get basic things done so that like everybody gets fed or that people have plumbing or electricity or, but we are way, way, way above that. Now, about like what does everybody need to have all their needs met? So I don't know what the number is above that, but as long as you have like billionaires, that's an obvious sign that it's way, way, way above that. So that means we can afford to lower the level. And coincidentally, that's probably the number one thing we could do to help like environmental issues is have everybody work less. So we're not producing as hard and we're only producing the things that really matter. Well, no, I mean, we can produce other things, but like if everybody involved with manufacturing cell phones, for example, worked half as much, that's something we could scale to. That's not gonna, although there's many moving parts on this, so you can't just do one thing, or usually you can't, and have everything go great. That would cause like an economic collapse, so you need to be prepared for that. So it's, yeah, I'm CIA is saying the problem is poor people. They should just go away. So yeah, the Ebenezer Scrooge approach. It's this is a system that is nowhere even close to efficient for things. Like this is what it's like. There's so much. However, the linchpin to all this is power dynamics, because the people calling the shots want it this way. So, and unearthing, or it's not unearthing. I guess prying away power is no simple matter at all, and I don't have an easy answer to that. Especially when the power dynamics have very advanced controls over things. So, yeah, it's well, that's the problem. That's the problem. I don't have an easy answer for every time. Is how do you stop things from being corrupted? And I don't have a good answer for that. That doesn't involve sci-fi technology, and even then, it's like a maybe answer. It's by no means foolproof, but yeah, I am. Look, pretty much any issue. I'm sure you could find some fringe example that would be kind of silly and wouldn't make sense, but any issue, I'm gonna be like pro-worker on. Like, yeah, people should, if the company can afford it, then for sure, workers get paid more, have more benefits, or, don't have to work as much, or just have better quality of life across the board. Again, I'm sure there's some weird fringe issue which doesn't make sense. But yeah, you can count me as basically full populist on that sort of thing. I'm all for quality of life for as many people as possible. So and I think the only time that doesn't make sense is in emergencies, where people will die if you don't, like, so maybe you do have like rescue workers after a disaster and they really do have to put in overtime and grueling hours. Well, even then, that's a temporary situation, and there's real tangible loss if you don't kind of push harder. But even then, a lot of the people doing that kind of work, Well, let's see, the chat's saying like communist or socialist. I mean, not necessarily, because I'm not. I think, yeah, see, this is where language gets confused so much, because there's like something like inequality. Okay, if we're being literal, I am for inequality. Like, I do think somebody who is studying to be a doctor or something like or an engineer or something like that takes a lot of time, education and investment and hustle, should get like, more resources than somebody like me, like who's just making goofy videos online, or like what's another kind of like low effort job, or well, no, not my job's low effort, but like I was thinking like more fun job or lower barrier to entry job. I'm trying to think of something that doesn't take much skill and isn't a hell job, and and that's not that important. That's what I was getting at. Not that important. My job is not important. I definitely don't slack on what I do, but the what? Trying to think. Somebody's saying puppy cuddler. Well, that's not. Well, it might be a job that exists, but okay. Yeah, let's say telemarketer or sales agent. That is not a job that particularly needs to exist. That's just to drive the profit of the company. So, you get what I'm saying. Like some jobs are really critical to society, and I think they should have more resources for that. Whereas others are not that important, or they're really easy jobs to do. Though I guess there's probably less of those now. But and so yeah, that's not important. And then there's people who just either don't want to work or can't work or have big barriers to that. So yeah, maybe they shouldn't have as many resources as the people who are really keeping society together. So yeah, I'm not for like everyone should. However, what I am against is like having just removing the bottom floor, so that if let's say you have mental health problems and you just can't keep a stable job, and like you can't afford to be in like some sort of institution to get care for you. So you're basically wandering the street. I really think we should take like basic needs off the table, so that you need more, you can call it coercion or incentive or whatever, to work a tougher job than like, going homeless or going, or not having enough to eat or not being able to get medical care or something like that. So there's still inequality that can exist, but some people talk about inequality as though everybody's working hard and having their needs met, and everybody else is just a parasite and helpless. And it's just like, that's such a cartoon interpretation of reality that it doesn't really resemble it. But the other thing, where people are talking about like socialism or communism, well, it depends what's the goal. Because socialism and communism can be just as destructive to the environment. It's just that they probably have a higher. That comes back to the corruption. I would say they probably have a higher probability of making the average quality of life better for the average person, assuming it doesn't get corrupted. If it gets corrupted, then anything's on the table. But that's true of like all the economic or government systems from my eyes. So but even then, I could easily see a socialist or communist country being totally on the wrong path for environmental sustainability, that we're going to collapse the ecosystem under that one the same you would under like a more capitalist one. So it's just because you can have great goals, but if they're undermined by the people on the top, then the distinction isn't that important almost. So I don't know. It's you can find dirt on basically any system. No, you can have a lot of difference in. There are some goals that are very preventable under some other than others, but again, if things get corrupted, then anything's possible. So I don't have an answer to that. So it's, yeah, that's where my mind sort of drifts between, like, there's real obvious things that are bad that we should try to fight. But then once you try to scale it, then it's like I just get lost in the fog where I don't know how this doesn't get undermined. So, okay, somebody's asking my political ideology. Well, I've said before, it's utilitarian slash utopian, where I know my ideas aren't realistic. So it's kind of like utopia. And utilitarian, and that I want maximum number of people to have, their needs met and have a decent chance for, pursuit of happiness. And I think that should be and for sustainably. That was the other catch, sustainably, because you can do all kinds of things to increase, needs are getting met and pursuit of happiness in the short term, but then that can come at the cost of the long term. So, I mean, how we get there, I'm pretty open-minded about. I could go with anything from communism to monarchy if it's done right. I mean, so it's less about I'm all about the goals, and rather than the ideology. But yeah, I feel like basic needs being met by the maximum number of people is a pretty good goal, and it's rough. You're gonna have a hard time arguing against that. With oh, okay, I missed the rest of the comment. They were saying radical gamer. Well, gaming, I really see as the escapism side of things. I mean, even with the game issue I'm most animated about is like ending the destruction of games, I realize that doesn't hold a candle to like real world issues where people are getting hurt. So, okay, somebody's saying socialism and communism are far less destructive to the environment because it does away with overproduction. Under capitalism, we overproduce goods. Okay. As it's by its core fundamentals, you're absolutely right. However, once we get into implementation, maybe, because say the socialist or communist government doesn't have as many resources, and something like coal becomes more economical under that system to run than something that's more sustainable, like maybe geothermal or nuclear, or there's red tape with getting a nuclear plant off the ground that there's not getting a coal plant off the ground, or you have rivalries. So there's a fixed amount of resources that people are voting on, but then it's calculated in a way that they give you the resources that you had last year based on what you got last year. So you rack up your expenses and things that might be wasteful and getting consumption that way. And then every other faction of that government is competing against each other in that way. So yeah, like if you're talking about on paper, I agree 100%. Like, you only make what you need. However, in reality, things get complicated, and it's, like I said, things can get undermined, and I don't have easy answers to that. So that's not me supporting capitalism. That's me tearing down all of it. I can see the cheeks in like every system. So I just don't, and I don't have obvious solutions on a large scale. So that makes this critique not particularly helpful that I'm making, and I'm aware of that. So, and there's probably a dozen other things that can come into play too, with like how the resource distribution works that creates a demand for more like waste of resources or pollution or something. And politics can get involved with it too. That it crosses over in weird ways that would be difficult to predict. Yeah, somebody's mentioning how Germany's opening more coal plants. Exactly. Like that's, and I think a while back they reporting. I think Germany was having that they were trying to make a big shift towards green energy, but even then, the green energy might not be as green because, well, it's hard to get less green than coal. So yeah, but I would say like things like solar and wind. Yeah, I'm kind of confused on that. Like those have to be replaced, and then the I think our recycling methods for those aren't that great, or maybe not even that practical. And those can use a lot of mining. Again, I think this still comes out way ahead in terms of coal, but that's not necessarily sustainable. But that's for solar panels. For wind, I don't even know what the hell's going on with wind because I think like wind turbines only last like about like 20 years or so, and then they basically have to be replaced. But I was thinking, that's so simple. Is it like just like the more efficient versions of it use materials that break down more easily? Or is it just that just the raw weather wears it down? Because if you make a stone bridge or something, that can probably last like a hell of a lot longer than 20 years. So I don't know. I would think maybe you could have something that's like less efficient but more durable. But even then, you have problems with that energy for base load. I mean, the baseline or whatever the term is, where, you know, the wind's not always blowing or the sun's not always shining so bright. So that can be tricky balancing it. And we don't have space age battery technology like in Supreme Commander to make up the difference. But yeah, things like geothermal could probably be developed a lot more. I think nuclear, I'm kind of warming up to nuclear as being like the least worst option, where like I think they were talking about like because the big problem with nuclear is like the waste. And I heard a technology where it's actually similar to fracking, where they can drill down below the water table and deposit the canisters that way. And that could be pretty safe. I mean, because it's buried under so much. And while fracking can have a lot of issues, a lot of that has to do with like the fluids that they use. Fracking is another thing where it seems safe in theory, but in practice, it really hasn't been. However, they might not need all those. A lot of those fluids are for getting the oil out of the ground. And if you don't need to do that, you're just doing it to bury the waste. Then what? Then can we get? And that's with what, uranium or plutonium reactors. I mean, if we can switch to thorium, I think the risk goes way down beyond that. So, but yeah, I think all of this comes out ahead of coal. So it's yeah. Somebody's saying thoughts on the fusion breakthrough late last year. I'll believe it when I see it with fusion plants. All right, you know what? Okay, here's some gamer trivia for you. What was the year you get fusion plants in SimCity 2000? Here, let's see. Maybe it's on a wiki. Because I want to say we're behind schedule here. Okay, it's not obvious to me what year that opens up in. So yeah, I think we're probably behind schedule on fusion plants for SimCity 2000. But I wouldn't. Fusion's one of those things where it's been so iffy. We need better. We shouldn't depend on that. Fusion should be treated. That's like up there with like hydrogen cars and stuff like that, where it's just that's more pie in the sky. So whereas we have more pressing things that we need to use with current technology. So it's like you don't rule it out, but you don't depend on it either. And if it comes along and that's the technology, great. We'll transition over to that. So, okay, I should I got sidetracked, but yeah, it's energy is one of those topics I can get torn off on. Uh, let's see. Oh yeah, I don't really know how to answer this one, but they're saying, what are 3 things that bring you satisfaction in life? And for me, I'm struggling to list anything after Game Dungeon. Okay. Oh, okay. So this might be a they need advice question. Okay. Well, I can. You can join my quest then. I mean, satisfaction in life. That's one of those things that can. I mean, I love things at the moment, but I'm kind of adaptable with that. Like, I mean, some things that came to mind were like, I do enjoy good games and film and music, and that's all. Well, the way I use it's music, not exactly, but that's all dependent on electricity and computers and stuff. Well, electricity for sure. Uh, so, but let's say I could never use a computer again, or we lost electricity. I would find other pursuits. I might get more towards things like rides or skiing or zip lines or uh, was mini golf, even make elaborate sculptures, more physical art, that sort of thing. So I could adapt, but when I say you can join me on my quest, I'm trying to. I'm still convinced that if I can get like in the right state of mind, I think like you can maybe boost your overall level of happiness quite a bit. But it's probably going to work differently for different people. But I think what will work for me is getting in a state where I can kind of remember everything I'm appreciative of. Because we tend to acclimate to things. And like somebody's saying meditation, there is a lot of potential with meditation, but I think I really don't have the right temperament for meditation. But the example of pretend you escaped from prison. I bet you would that first day you're out. I bet you would feel great. You would appreciate everything, like the sun shining, just your general freedom, like seeing trees, or nature, that sort of thing. Having food that's not or just knowing that you're out and you don't, to the best of knowledge, you don't have to go back. That would be like one of the best days of your life. But the thing, or just even getting out of, not even escaping, but just getting out, like, time served or something. You get to meet friends again. Like, everything would be so fresh and great. But the thing is, our brains tend to acclimate to that. So that just becomes normal. And so I'm trying to like research more on like how to like get yourself in that state of mind where you just can kind of remember that. And like I can do that as like a thought experiment to an extent, but I'm trying to develop more of a routine or like a methodology to it. Another thought scenario I have is like it's sort of like, what is it? Or I was gonna say like 12 Monkeys or A New Beginning, or pretend you're a time traveler that you're in this dystopia where just everything is just awful. But then you've come back to the present day, and now you can get food from the grocery, or like you can listen to music and see all this great stuff online. It'd be great. And I think there was kind of a scene like that in 12 Monkeys where he's like listening to the music and he's like sticking his head out the window to feel the breeze on his face. And he was really enjoying like just living life like in the past. So just pretend like today is the past and things. So we're in the good old days right now. And I think that's another way to kind of get there. Yeah, somebody's saying exactly mindfulness and presence of moment. See, here's the problem with what you just said. If you do a search on Google for mindfulness, you're going to come up with so much crap, basically, that's it's anywhere ranging from like pseudoscience to just straight up grifting or just stuff that's like nothing even remotely concrete or, I mean, for some people that works. I mean, just having like an emotional kind of description of things. But I want more like kind of like methodology stuff. I've had some success lately actually looking at some YouTube videos that they gave me some leads. They didn't quite give me full advice, but from this kind of pop neurologist, but I think he knows a lot of what he's talking about. Andrew Huberman, where he has a lot of he has like these 2-hour lectures where he talks about different things, and like everything he talks about that I've seen so far, it's either focusing on like your biology with like what neurotransmitters are being released when you do different activities based on these peer-reviewed studies. So it's a whole lot of behavioral psychology there, and just practical things you might try. And like that's so much more helpful for my approach. Like, okay, some people have success with like this chemical substance or trying this practice, and here's this study showing the results of this. And when you do this activity, what's happening in your brain is like dopamine goes to this part, or like epinephrine is triggered by this. And I can say that, he doesn't strike me as a crank. Somebody's mentioning that, because I can say his description of like what neurotransmitters are more likely with depression lined up exactly with what my experience was with it, because not knowing any of this. Because when I had depression like decades back, I ended up, like he mentioned, like this isn't like a hard, this isn't like a hard and fast thing, because depression can be caused like by multiple things and triggers and all sorts of things. But there's a correlation with different neurotransmitters for like what type of depression you might have. Like, so again, it's not a hard and fast thing, but there are correlations. And what was it? For if you have like low serotonin levels, you're gonna feel like you're gonna have like overwhelming sense of guilt and like you're not good enough, or like sadness. If you have like, I think it was like, oh geez, I forget what it was for low. Oh, I can check my notes. Hold on. I've been taking notes on some of his lectures. Well, let's see, neuro. Okay. Okay, yeah, if you have low epinephrine, which is basically adrenaline except in your brain, you have lack of energy, lethargy related to activities, and alertness. So it's like if you just can't get out of bed, like you want to do things, but you're just like, nah. Yeah, that could be lower levels of that. And if you have low dopamine, then you can have anhedonia, absence of the ability to experience pleasure or motivation. And that's exactly what I had. And when they prescribed stuff for me the first time, they gave me a serotonin inhibitor, and that did nothing for me. And the thing is, when I think about it, even in like the full throes of my depression, I didn't have I never really felt like overwhelmingly guilty. Like I didn't feel like I was like a bad person or anything like that. I just felt like something's happening to my brain and I feel terrible and this sucks. So, I mean, I didn't feel like, so my serotonin levels are probably okay. But then later, 6 months later, they prescribed Wellbutrin to me, and I was having results within days. And turns out Wellbutrin affects dopamine. So yeah, I'll give a link to one of his videos that I found more helpful in the video. But yeah, you can check out his channel. And another thing I remembered for life in the future, being a time traveler, was The Onion had this fantastic video where they're using time travel technology to get newscasts from the future. And the whole thing is just fantastic. Like, I'll link to that in the description when I do that. So, yeah, somebody's saying a huge part of mental health and well-being is what's in your food. Absolutely. Like, sugar can lead to just ridiculous swings for me. but there's a lot of other foods too. So yeah, so if you're only getting pleasure from Game Dungeon, maybe your dopamine levels are off, or I mean, it can just be bad situation too, like in your regular life. But yeah, I'll give a link to a video that could help. If you can't wait, just yeah, look up Andrew Huberman dopamine or something, and I think that's one of the videos. So, but the point is, a whole lot of this stuff could be just physiological. So in other words, nothing you are doing. Oh, another one he recommended that the studies showed that this can be as effective as, oh yeah, not only as effective as serotonin inhibitors, but can also, like omega-3 fatty acids, can also drastically help your ability to be helped by serotonin inhibitors. So I've started taking some of them, and you get those from like fish oil. So I've started taking like some fish oil pills. But yeah, there's a whole lot. This stuff, I wish I learned this crap like 20 years ago. And some of this stuff seems so essential that like some of this stuff, like the basics of it, I feel like should have been taught in high school. Because I mean, this can really affect like your outlook on life and like having a better understanding of what's happening to you. I mean, I'm still real much of a rookie on it, but what this reminds me of it's like playing a game that has like kind of cryptic instructions, and now you're just now seeing like the manual or the wiki for like how a lot of your brain works. So yeah, somebody's saying fish oil. I don't taste the fish oil. I just take the pills. Yeah. And then he recommended a few books on dopamine. I finished one of them. It didn't, I mean, it had some interesting stuff, but it didn't have much practical advice. I'm starting on the next one, so. Yeah, but man, so yeah, if you're having a lack of satisfaction in your life, you should definitely look into this stuff, because there's some stuff that's like, for sure having a good state of mind helps, but there's a whole lot of physiological stuff going on we might not even be aware of. So yeah, pills here. But see, you want to take the right pills. So let's see. Okay, so yeah, I should move along because there were some good questions towards the bottom. Has one of your hell jobs been in a restaurant? Kind of. I worked as a kitchen steward for the mess hall at a Boy Scout camp. So yeah, that's pretty close. I mean, I was washing dishes the whole time, so yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, this question. This happened before. Are there any memories you have of video games you have that you simply cannot resurface the game from? And then they're trying to remember a SpongeBob game where if you get a certain item or upgrade, the art style turns into an Ed Roth inspired monster truck kind of game. Yeah, that could have been like a fan base game. Yeah, I have a few. One of them, I don't know if this was Mac or PC. This was like mid 90s or earlier, where I think it was like this like educational adventure game. And all I remember were you were in like this kind of suburb setting, and I think you were like in a kitchen, and later you went outdoors to like this kind of like garage driveway slab with a basketball hoop. And then I think I might be getting details wrong, but I remember you went to like a map view of like the town area you were in. And then I remember one of either the main quest line or at least one of them was like the salinity of the local river or the stream was off, and you were trying to investigate like what was happening with that. And just to knock out some obvious candidates, it's not EcoQuest. It had a similar aesthetic to the Adventures of Willie Beamish, but that wasn't it. And same for Eagle Eye Mysteries, I think. So I have no idea what the game was. I've tried to find it, came up dry. Couple others. One was for Commodore 64. It was this platformer where, geez, I don't even know if I could describe enough of it, but it had like a black background. It was a little bit like Trolls and Tribulations, but like the platforming was more advanced. I have no idea what the game is. I would have to see a screenshot and maybe that would be it. The other one, I have a few more details. Is another Commodore 64 game where what I have in my head was you were either running this alien society or else you were like landing on an alien planet and kind of exploring it. And I think it had like a cutaway view where you can kind of go underground. But I remember it being interesting, but I'm just so hazy on the details. And I feel like I had alien in the title somewhere, but I could be remembering it incorrectly. So yeah, my email is rosswscott@gmail.com. So feel free to chime in if you think you know which one any of these are. I've had pretty good luck coming across the others since then. But yeah, so these real old ones, it's like, man, what game was that? But like, I'm pretty sure another game I saw that was in a computer lab, I think that might have been Timescape, where it was like kind of colorful and you were traveling through time. It wasn't a Journeyman project. It was a little more barren than that. So I need to play that one at some time. But yeah, I think there's a Reddit devoted to this sort of thing. So yeah, feel free to make posts on my behalf from what I said. So let's see. Okay, somebody's linking to the omega-3 fatty acid. Yeah, don't take my word for any of this. I'm just listening to this guy who, a PhD, obviously knows way more about neurology than I ever will. And what I really appreciate is like the practical-minded approach to this and using behavioral psychology and like, peer-reviewed experiments to back it up. So it's not, they're not saying, oh, you just need to think positive, and like, that may not be possible depending on your situation, but you can take a pill, or you can sleep or try to, depending on your job or situation, try to sleep during certain hours, because apparently that has a dopamine depressing effect or something. So I can share my notes later too, people want. But they're just sort of like cliff notes for me on that. Somebody's asking about what I think of the Evil Dead movies. Real quick, I saw them out of order because I saw them with a friend. I saw Army of Darkness first, and it was neat. I love the one-liners and the style, but it got like almost a little too goofy for me. Then I saw Evil Dead, and that one was just kind of crazy. I mean, it was well done, but it's like, whoa. And then I saw Evil Dead 2, and it was like Goldilocks. That one was just right. The comedy was like perfect for my taste. And I feel like it hit the perfect balance. And then I saw Ash versus the Evil Dead, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So, okay. Yeah, somebody's saying that View Stimulants was over that time. Completely stopped feeling any good effects on the drug. Well, hey, he has one on addiction, a lecture on that. So maybe he has some tips for that. He might have more than one on addiction. Oh, okay. Jeez. Okay, I'll go to the chat because this is a good question. What's your 2 cents on classified U.S. documents getting leaked online the way that it did? What I've heard, I've just kind of heard snippets of this. I've heard from people who are more familiar with the military that this is allegedly done by 21-year-old in the National Guard. And that does not, at face value, that does not sound like someone who would have had access. And he's not to, like, not high-ranking officer or anything like that. Who would have had access to those documents. So maybe there's something fishy going on with that. I've seen there's some details. The other thing I heard was that the New York Times went out of their way to out the leaker, and that's quite unusual for or leaker slash whistleblower. I'm not sure the details, because that's kind of the exact opposite position of what traditionally of what the press is supposed to do. The press is supposed to keep their sources under wraps, but instead, the New York Times was basically, I think they got to them even before law enforcement. So they went full investigative journalism to out the leaker. So yeah, like, with, what was it, Snowden? Like, he had like a, sort of like a secret meeting with reporters to show all the information he got with the leaker. This would be like if they went and like outed Snowden before like law enforcement to like bust him before he even made it out of the country. So interesting times. Yeah. So yeah, there's been a shift in the media for that. And I heard like this one's much more speculative, but I've heard this could be like a measure to like try to, because like the documents were leaked on, I think it was like Discord originally or something. This could be an excuse to basically drum up. Yeah, if this one would be more conspiracy theory, but this could be to like drum up support for having more restriction or surveillance of online software. And one of the other questions people mentioned that didn't get many votes is related to that. So I'll get to that in a minute. But my opinion, who knows? It does seem fishy, and that's a sign of the times if the New York Times is busting basically leakers or whistleblowers, or I don't know if he qualified as a whistleblower or not. But for sure, leakers, confidential sources getting information. I mean, it's completely it's a complete reversal. Okay, so back to the other questions. Let's see. Okay, I'll try to speed up a little bit. What is the most memorable, intriguing puzzle or riddle you've ever encountered? There might be some more memorable ones that I forgot about, but like the most, honestly, still life, that cookie recipe, that's one of the most satisfying puzzles I solved. Like that one took some head scratching, but I got it and I felt quite satisfied with getting it. I remember the lockpick puzzle being pretty good too. It was no joke. Like Still Life has some solid puzzles. Like it was, those are the ones that stood out to me. I mean, they're not necessarily the most like memorable and like great ones. Like I'd rather have like some weird Portal or something, or like really cool music playing, than like baking cookies. But those are solid. Have I tried that cookie recipe in real life? Maybe not, but I wasn't too picky at the time with my own cookie recipes. So it was, I was just getting my fix, So okay, I'm gonna move off cookies because I'm still susceptible. Okay, I'm gonna start skipping some more questions that I don't have. Okay, I'll answer this quick. They're saying, and Freeman's Mind 2, Episode 2, in Kleiner's lab, when Alex steps in the teleporter and then Eli appears on the monitor, instead of leaning in, he stands there and raises his hands in the air. And as you, Freeman, said, behold, I don't even remember doing that. It sounds like something I would say, though. And all the times I played Half-Life 2, I've never seen Eli do that. Did you try and fix it, or did you not even bother because it was so funny? I did not even realize that wasn't what it was supposed to be. I've only played through Half-Life 2 like, I'd say like 1.5 times, something like that. So I just didn't even remember that part. So it seemed like I didn't realize if that was a bug. I didn't realize it, so I just went with the bug. But I would say if there is a mistake and it's funnier, then I absolutely go with the mistake. In fact, that happened. That's going to happen in the next episode, 19, where I made a mistake and then I realized, oh wow, this is even better with the mistake. And then I redid it, and then even more stuff screwed up. And like, oh, this is even gonna be better now. So I won't give too many spoilers, but yeah, I sometimes play intentionally worse many times. I intentionally play worse in Freeman's mind because it makes the video better. So, but this one was just a straight up mistake. And then I didn't mean to do that, but I thought, oh wow, no, I should leave this in totally. That's part of why the episode got extended. It extended it by accident, but hey, if it makes the video better, I'm not speedrunning this. How many takes do you normally get through in recording an episode of Freeman's Mind? Is there a lot of trial and error getting the scene to play out right? Do the source engines randomness? Yeah, I'd say it varies from anywhere from like I have had some perfect takes before, 1 to 30. But by around 30, I'm just ready to give up and just go for like the least worst option. Because I have to connect a lot of stuff with it's not necessarily source bugs, but it's almost like a play rehearsal. Because if I have to do 3 things and pull them off right, and then I make a mistake, but then in the episode, there's like a lot of ragdolls that won't necessarily match up with the earlier footage, so I have to get it all done in one take, then somebody's saying, do you plan to eventually release a blooper episode for Freeman's Mind? Yeah, there's gonna be a blooper for 19. That's actually slowed it down a little bit. There was like a completely, like, I can't patch over this blooper that like, I'm just like, oh my God, all right. I'm gonna try to patch together, and that was a pretty good take too. So I'm gonna try to patch together like 90% of the good part and then to end it on the blooper. Actually, I'm gonna have a blooper and then I'm gonna have something that's pretty cool, but I couldn't work it in because it didn't fit in with the other footage. So, this is something I totally would have had in the episode, but I couldn't work it in because of all the variables. So yeah, after I do 19, you'll get another blooper episode. Oh wow, my stomach's growling. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna skip some more. Okay. Well, this got a decent amount of votes. Have you experienced in tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons or Call of Cthulhu? Just the only ones I've done or with some friends were Dungeons and Dragons and I think Warhammer 40K Inquisition or whatever the name is. So I'm not really qualified to say a favorite. Do you have any stories of campaigns you've done? A lot of these I want to save because maybe eventually I get to animate them and they'll be very entertaining. I'll give one of the lesser ones that's kind of fun though. Is in Dungeons and Dragons. Our party was infiltrating some sort of cult, and the cult was serving us this kind of spiked lemonade to basically brainwash us with some sort of drug. And we suspected that, so we just kind of pretended to go along with it, but didn't drink it. So, and after they thought that we were like hypnotized, like, our whole party was just kind of like staring blank going, lemonade. Like, that's all we said. It was just lemonade. And we just followed the handlers. And then we got deep into some layer of wherever we were supposed to find. And once we got there, we realized, like, okay, this is like the leader or whatever, wherever we were trying to get to. Like, the party decided to, like, okay, do a surprise attack against all of them because we're just standing. And, like, we rolled for initiative, and our rogue went first and did, like, some brutal stab attack to one of the cultists, and then that alerted everybody and started running towards us. And I was second, so they asked, "Okay, Russ, what do you want to do?" And so I said, "I'm just gonna stand there. I'm just gonna keep standing there and say lemonade." And then like the whole party loved this idea except our rogue, so they just went along with it for the whole first turn. So we basically left our rogue completely out in the cold, where the so that they're all going for him, and that they think that so we're just all playing along, we're getting hypnotized. So they all think that it's just him that's the problem, and they're just completely ignoring us and not attacking us or anything. And the DM loved that idea. I said, "Yeah, a little bit of a adventurer humor there, you know." And our rogue started to panic a little bit. Then we finally joined in, like on the second round, once they got some real stabs in on him. But that was kind of fun. And then immediately following that, we took out the cultist in that area, and that's when they unleashed this giant ape or gorilla on us that would. Oh no! They did that midway through the fight, because so we had to do the cultist fights, and the giant gorilla that they had captured there stuck his hand in the window, kind of a King Kong thing, and started like thrashing around with his arm, and we all had to do like these evasion checks to not get slammed by the gorilla hand while we're fighting. So yeah, I'll say a tip for that from, I mean, maybe DMs already know this. All the best fights, I feel like, have multiple things going on in them. So it wasn't just one fight people to attack. It's like, I think I mentioned before that like we would be on a boat and these alligators are following us, and these natives are shooting blow darts at us, and the natives are getting into a canoe and coming out to where we are to have hand-to-hand combat. So it like we had a great DM for some of them. This is a friend of mine. He said he kind of likes to have the party going like, oh God, like, because our attention's split and kind of keeping us on the edge of things. And yeah, it's for sure more fun. So yeah, I'll pass that along as a tip to any role-playing dungeon masters or something, like keep your party on their toes, Oh, and for somebody saying they're so lost on what I'm talking about right now, hopefully you got some of it. The DM is the person who runs the campaign, but I highly recommend, this might be like completely cryptic to you, but Lord of the Rings as a DM, as a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, where this guy gives us analysis of the movies. It's hilarious. I'll give a link to that. Okay, so more questions. They're saying you're not just going to dump the movie on YouTube and call it good, are you? Please tell me you're going to monetize your art in other ways too. And they say it has tremendous value. Well, I am going to try to have like a marketing campaign of sorts. I'll have a teaser and a trailer before then. I'll try to reach out to places, but as for monetization, I mean, I'll probably put it on other streaming platforms, maybe something like Vimeo or why not? It'll be available to torrent, so you'll be able to download a high quality version of it. I'll submit to film festivals if I can. For monetization, I'm on the fence if I just want to have like YouTube ads to recoup some of the cost. I might just make it completely free. So it's not going to be for sale. You're just going to be able to get it. Yeah, Dailymotion, Rumble, yeah, wherever. I'll put it everywhere. So I'll do my own kind of campaigning and marketing, but the thing is, this is going to involve a lot of people. I mean, just from voice acting and from like, mapping help, model help, hopefully some animation help. So it's like, I don't even know how. A lot of that's going to have to, not everything, but a lot of that's going to have to be kind of pro bono, because I wouldn't be able to afford to make this. So if I'm like trying to like do a lot of sales and stuff, that opens. Well, one, I'm probably still not going to break even on it. And two, it's like figuring out the shares of all that. Like, I don't even know how it would work. It's like, okay, like let's say the movie makes like $500 or something, and then that's split between like 50 people, but it's not split evenly at all in terms of time involved. And then you have to figure out, well, okay, what's more important, like that particular voice actor or somebody who did like weight mapping for an organic model, which is just a pain in the ass, but really important. So I hate the business aspect of it. So I'll, okay, I'm CIA saying they'll market it for me. Great, sure, I'll accept but I'm not gonna worry about that too much right now. I'd much rather just get it made. So don't worry, it won't be surprise, here's the movie. I'll have a countdown even or something like that. So I'll really try to market it, but for making lots of money on it, and plus if I'm using assets from other games, some of it I can do that for YouTube, but I might not be able to have like sales of it or something. But you'll be able to download it as though it was once. Hey, I could have ISO images if you want to burn it to ISO or DVD or Blu-ray. So, so I'll definitely market it, but the monetization aspect, I hate business. I hate doing business. So, and plus I want as many people to see it. So it's a lot easier to see it if it's free, Do you find man, good questions this time. Do you find seventh generation, late 2000s, early 2010s video game graphics tend to look less appealing than sixth generation, early 2000s? The higher polygon detail combined with the plasticky shading and textures giving an uncanny valley feeling. I hadn't really thought about that, but I think you're right. Somebody's saying 5.1 surround sound. Maybe, don't count on it. Maybe if we get like some really top rate audio mixer who can really work with the sound effects and make it happen, maybe, but I won't be doing that. There'll be at least stereo. But what? Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know how much of that has to do with the technology and how much has to do with trends that were going on at the time, where okay, I'll have an example of this in the description too. They give examples of Jurassic Park, the game, Unreal Tournament 3. There is a beta version of Unreal Tournament 3 where the lighting and color looks way nicer. And I even made a joke image where I had like old and inferior, and it's colorful and it looks nice and it's great. And then I did like new and improved. And then I tried to make it look like what the final game was, where I tinted it, desaturated it, gave it too much bloom, that sort of thing. I'll upload those somewhere and give links to them when when I put this on YouTube. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a lot more cohesion with a lot of early 2000s style stuff. So he's asking if I own a Steam Deck. No, I don't. If I did a bunch of mobile gaming, I might. But yes, it's yeah. So I don't pay much attention to mobile stuff, but only just kind of tangentially. But yeah, I think you might be onto something. A lot of the art direction does seem more solid from early 2000s than like late 2000. But it depends. I'm sure they're outliers though. Okay. Okay, I'm just kind of skipping stuff since they're asking. I have questions I don't have easy answers for. Let's see. Well, one I've answered this one before, so I'll have to get more. That's on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. You'll have to get more votes next time. Uh, okay, well, I'll just answer this one quick. There are probably better ones I forgot about, but they're saying, what's been your favorite FM bit to do so far across the series? Just because it's in my memory, the part where I did like a few episodes ago where they're stuck in the chamber and then Eli is acting a little clueless as to what's going on, and then the soldiers are invading, and it said like, your dad just killed us. But like, I had to do that a few times because I stopped. I broke out laughing, which doesn't happen too often for me in Freeman's Mind, but that one did it. Uh, I think what it was is I love you know how people always say like, don't panic? This is like pouring fuel onto the fire of panicking. So I could find, I'm a big fan of like when chaos breaks out, and I was managing to like amplify it. And that, it just cracked me up in a way. So, okay, skipping some more. Oh yeah, well, somebody's saying, are you glad it's warming up? No, I'm not. I mean, it's not that I don't like spring, it's that it's making me nervous about what summer is going to be like. Because I'm just sweating here in doing this. I noticed that about 20 minutes in. It just gets brutal sometimes. And when it's so hot that you have the fan on you and you're lying still and you're still too hot, that's when it starts getting rough. My heat tolerance sucks. So I'm getting nervous. It's making me nervous about summer. So yeah, spring's nice, but it's making me scared about summer. Oh, and they're saying they're worried about getting a start on their screenplay in their 40s. And they're asking if I have anything like that. I need to get back to my music organization quest. That's been delayed way too long. And I'm disturbed how long the movie's been taking me, but it's gonna happen. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. It's just I need to tear apart more time for it. So, and I'm getting to the point now where I can afford to have like gaps in the videos to make time for it. So I'm getting closer. Skipping some more. Okay, they're asking, what would your perfect desert level be in a video game? I'm not sure, but my favorites that I can think of off the top of my head are King's Quest V and the Dungeon Siege multiplayer version, like the multiplayer mod where it takes the multiplayer map and brings it to the single player. What those both have in common are huge deserts where you're exploring a lot. Well, King's Quest V creates the appearance of a huge desert. Where you're exploring a lot, there's a lot of nothing there. But when you find something, it's a big deal. And I like that about deserts. How you don't know what's out there, and it's kind of mysterious. So I like mysterious deserts. Where there's a lot of dunes and it's almost like another world. But then when you find something, it's a big deal. It's mysterious. So, let's see. Oh yeah, any thoughts on this long extension science paper? Yeah, I saw a snippet of that. They're saying, in short, the researchers create a tiny virtual sandbox town with generative AI agents and everybody with daily schedules, and you talk to them. Yeah, I think that stuff's awesome. I wonder if we're going to catch up with processing power to handle all of it. But yeah, this is what I mean. AI can just open up all kinds of possibilities for gaming and multimedia, and it's exciting. I think it's one of the biggest advancements to be happening in computers. The GUI will get a follow-up, and I will have new interesting stuff in there. But I just got to get to that. Let's see. I'm kind of to go faster now. Russ, do you have any recommendations or advice for American who might be spending a year or so in Poland? Get your paperwork sorted out. Like, you might need to find like an attorney to help. Like, I mean, not to represent you in court or anything, just that they know the process. And try to learn some, basic phrases like, dziękuję, przepraszam, czy mówi pan po angielsku? Like, do you speak English? Nie mówię po polsku means I don't speak Polish. Yeah, try to learn some verbs and nouns, especially food. Skipping some more. I have not played Brutal Legend. I've seen the beginning of it. They're making it this person is making it sound like it's kind of more exploratory, which I might dig that. I think what I heard was about Brutal Legend is it kind of swaps genres around, and then a lot of it's like a strategy game that's kind of awkward to handle. So that didn't kind of win me over, but maybe I'll give it a try. I mean, the description, maybe I'll give it a try. I've been meaning, somebody's asking about Spacebar and Amber Journeys Beyond. I've been meaning to check out both of those. I think those are both, I think I grabbed both of those from my, maybe not Spacebar, I'm not sure, but in my abandonware spree. What is one of your favorite episodes of South Park? I'm probably a decade behind on South Park. I'm meaning to catch up slowly. Lately, I've been catching up on the Twilight Zone. I'm on the season 5 of the Twilight Zone, so maybe I'll finally catch up on that. Out of the South Parks that I've seen, if I had to pick just off the top of my head, I think I'd have to go with the one where they're doing the Civil War reenactments. Like, I was laughing hard at that one. There's like one scene where they all wake up hungover, and like they've been going on this like campaign, and Cartman saying like, "Oh no, come on, we need to keep going to Washington," and like, or Kyle's dad, or I think it's Kyle, or Stan's dad. Stan's dad is saying like, geez, I'm mixing them up now. Is saying like, no boys, it was fun while it lasted, but like we got to get back before our wives leave us, and then Cartman maneuvers to like get the beer truck to pull in, and like so the beers all good, and then they start serving the beers, and they all start cheering, and then they keep going. Oh man, I love that episode. that is easily one of my favorite ones. Like the Civil War reenactment one, whichever one that is. I just love the dynamics of all of it. It's just that like let's just abandon our lives just to have fun and just keep going on this binge. And make this the most important things make this reenactment the most important things of our life as long as we're drunk. And it is great. I love it. Okay. Let's see. I need to play Necronomicon. Let's see. I even have an old school copy of that one. It's not even from Abandonware. Okay, I'm just skipping more I don't have easy answers for. I've only played the beginning of MDK and MDK2. I need to play more of those. Let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, here's a longer one. I only got like 1 point, but okay, so we kind of, oh yeah. Over the last month, I made a tweet being critical of an argument for shutting down AI development. In the article I linked, I mentioned the expert Eliezer Yudkowsky, I might be pronouncing it incorrectly, thinks a 6-month moratorium on AI development wouldn't go far enough, and that should be shut down completely. However, he isn't just some chump. He leads research at the Machine Intelligence Research Institute and has been working on aligning artificial general intelligence since 2001, and is widely regarded as a founder in the field. If a founder in the field is saying we should airstrike data centers, and he gives a link, and I'll put that in the chat here, and I'll put that in the general notes for later. He's saying we should airstrike data centers and shut down AI development. Doesn't that mean that there's something here that we should be paying attention to? It's not to mention 1,100 AI experts, researchers, and industry leaders that signed on to the 6-month moratorium. And he understands my excitement. let's see. But he'd argue that given the potential dangers, wouldn't it hurt to restrict more powerful AI development to academic institutions, for instance? Okay, yeah, several things on this. And he compares a CRISPR precise gene editing tool is also just restricted to academic institutions because of ethical concerns about people making designer babies. See, I would disagree with that one because, okay, I'll start with that one because that one's easier and shorter. Like, let's, although I don't know the details on CRISPR, but let's just say like gene editing, medical gene. See, as I said, my politics are utilitarian. I'd say you have to show that you're not preventing people from dying by withholding this information than you are about worrying about concerns like somebody doing a designer baby. Because a designer baby, yeah, that's an ethical gray area to me. Curing diseases through genetic engineering is not. That's literally saving lives. So you have to, in my opinion on that, the onus is on you to prove that this is gonna save more lives than we lose by going this route. Because like the designer baby, that again, ethical gray area. So, and you can have regulations on that aspect of it, where if it's being used for purposes that aren't for debilitating diseases or like handicaps or something, and then you could have like a standard list of some, then, it wouldn't be legal. And that would cull the vast majority of it, I think. So yeah, I'm for whatever creates the most good. Okay, now let's go to his point, where he's thinking, well, first off, I'll give him props that he seems to be making a logically consistent scenario. So I'm simplifying, but it sounds like he's basically worried about Skynet or Terminator, where the AI is going to uprise against us and kill everybody. So I agree with his logic that if you are genuinely worried about that, a 6-month moratorium is worthless. That feels like my attitude on like global warming or stopping games from being destroyed. It's like, if we're not actually trying to solve the problem, then what the hell is the point of these little like nibble around the edges solutions? So to me, that says he very likely just genuinely believes this. And I would even go, unless I'm thinking of forgetting an exception, I would even go so far to say that anyone who proposes a solution to a real problem that doesn't address the problem, is just stalls it a little bit and that's it, or it doesn't even address the problem, at best, they either haven't thought this through or they're kind of conflating ideas and getting things mixed up in their head. And at worst, they're grifting or trying to spread disinformation. And I think I've heard there's an argument to suggest that like big petroleum companies like Exxon or ExxonMobil or BP or something, I think some of them funded hydrogen cars because they know, hydrogen isn't an energy source. It's an energy medium. It's more like batteries than it is like an actual source of energy. And they knew that wouldn't scale and that it's so far behind, there are problems to solve, and it's so far behind having widespread practicality that this is diversion. So this absorbs energy from more realistic solutions, like say railway or something, or electric cars to a degree. That's intentional misdirection. That's not to knock people who are interested in hydrogen-based cars. I mean, yeah, there's science and it's interesting technology. However, it's being kind of weaponized, and that's not a solution to the problems of trying to reduce emissions for global warming, something like that. So to me, that says it sounds like he's talking in good faith. So I wanted to get that out of the way. That yeah, if you were genuinely worried about that, then like 6 months is pointless. And real quickly, let's say if we even could do one, that's 6 months assuming we could magically snap our fingers and just put a halt on all dangerous, in air quotes, development, which we won't. There would be other actors or countries that wouldn't, and they would just pull ahead. So I think that 6 month moratorium for the people who are thinking this through. Like, again, like some people just might not be thinking this and it just sounds good, so they support it. I'm not trying to knock people like that. I mean, I think they can be misguided, but that's not the same, no ill intention. For the people who have thought this through are, they're probably using this like cynically to get an advantage, because if they can get legislation passed preventing their major competition from developing AI, that gives them an advantage to kind of pull ahead and kind of corner the market more, or solidify their position in technology even further and kind of create their own little dynasty, which seems to be the modern business model of major companies. So yeah, that could be a cynical thing. Okay, now let's get to what he's talking about. I mean, yeah, okay, by all means, see, there's two sides of this, of what he's saying. There's one where if you understand AI to a decent degree, which he obviously does, then the AI in its current state, it can't even do this. Like the only real threat it would be if we put it in charge of like nuclear missiles, so it could just trigger a nuclear war. Yeah, that is a huge risk. I don't think we should ever do that for any AI. So I support that completely. I think there is another real risk of making it so that like all information is just kind of a mess and you can't trust a damn thing online, because AI has gotten so good at just scrambling everything that and maybe you could, like right now, it's me talking on video. And even if somebody were to deep fake me or something, you could probably tell if you like really analyze it, it's not me. Maybe in the future you can't. So, or maybe in the future you can, but not in real time, and then later you can do it in real time. So that could be a risk, and that just, it could almost be like, what was it, the Tower of Babylon, where all of a sudden, like, we can't trust any, well, that's not exactly the same as Tower of Babylon, but similar, where you just can't trust anything online. So yeah, I could see that being quite detrimental. I'm not sure what the solution would be, though. I guess the solution would be to have like really trustworthy organizations that, I don't want to say arbiter of truth, because that we've seen that abused for various different. We had like that misinformation Senate hearing where like the senator was asking like the Department of Homeland Security these things that like, hey, we've shown you pushing like disinformation on things before. Like, why should we trust you? What I was thinking more would be something like just like a symposium of scientists that like try to establish facts, like circumference of the earth, chemical reactions, stuff as kind of a repository of knowledge, and hope that doesn't get too corrupted. But anyway, not to snuff out all competing information. It's just that lead by example. So it gets to the point where, you don't trust a lot of information on this thing, but you trust this organization because they've had an excellent track record. I think that's the only way out. But that's not what he's talking about. We're talking about like what AI can do in the present and the foreseeable future. And there are ways to contain an AI. This is the first layer. This is the second layer, which I think he's referring to. So it's like, one, we'll keep the AI local. Make sure the AI can't get out to the net. So it's not like the Lawnmower Man, the ending of that, where it just gets into all systems everywhere. Oh, Tower of Babel, not Babylon. Lawnmower Man gets everywhere. So we can contain it. We're not building an army of robots. And even then, our battery power is limited, even if we had an army of robots. That's why missile launches. Oh yeah, there's another great movie about this, Colossus, the Forbin Project. If you like, it's an old one, but it holds up pretty well. Uh, the so yeah, so there are ways to contain AI if we really thought it was dangerous, but I don't even think it is going to get dangerous. But I think if I'm characterizing his argument incorrectly, let me know. But what I think he's saying is this: he's worried about an AI becoming smart, like achieving consciousness and achieving a greater intelligence than humans. And if it does that, that's incredibly frightening, because that means we can't even envision the things that the AI could do to us to take us over. So, like, I think I heard an analogy before. It's like, I think it wasn't a very, very good analogy, but it was something like if a spider, no, I can't even remember the analogy, forget it. Anyway, here's one I'm making up on the fly. So like, let's say we think we have every angle of AI covered. Like it can't get out through the net. Like it's limited by power or battery control. It can only control so many things. So it's just locked in there and it's not dangerous. Because it's too contained. And well, if it's smarter than humans, okay, fine. The AI just kept going and going and going with its intelligence. Now it's developed teleporters. Now it's developed fusion energy. Now it's developed super powerful batteries. And now we can't stop it because we had no defenses against this, or it comes up with something we couldn't even envision. I think that's what he's worried about. So there's two layers to that. One is that's assuming the AI is going to become that intelligent to just pull ahead of our known understanding of the laws of physics so much that it's a genuine threat. But the second is that this assumes that it's going to achieve consciousness and like true intelligence, not just really great pattern recognition and modification and dynamic kind of scaling to that, which is what we have right now. Like, we don't actually have artificial intelligence. What we have is like really great pattern recognition that's getting better all the time and is developing in ways we don't quite realize. That's not the same thing at all. Like, I still love that analogy. Like, the difference between artificial intelligence and intelligence is like the difference between an artificial plant and an actual plant. Big difference once you get up close, you know? But like, he is an AI expert, I guess. So if he's actually worried about that happening, his concern is real. However, what I would kind of argue against, even though I'm not qualified, I guess, for this conversation, is the odds of that seem so low to me. Because as humans, we don't even know how our intelligence works. We don't know how consciousness works. Like, okay, we have this many cells, this triggers it, and bam, we have consciousness. No, this is still a big unknown to us. So we don't even know how to program that in. We don't even know how to tell that, to give it that AI to give the AI that as its objective. We don't even have the direction for that. Whereas most AI, we can give objectives and the AI figures it out. I mean, maybe you could do some freeform thing, but like the analogy I made up would be like looking for consciousness. Because people talk about, oh, well, AI is getting faster and faster. It's going to wipe us out that way because it's going to get so powerful. The analogy I make is, to quote The Onion, even a Ferrari is too slow if you don't know how to shift. Or it might be a Lamborghini. This was an article about my computer hates me, and then the Onion saying like, "God, do I hate that woman" or something. uh, the okay, what I was going to get at is, okay, let's say we can try all these different combinations. Like we bust out the quantum computers and we're really trying to find intelligence for AI. Well, the thing is, because we don't know what it is exactly ourselves, the what? The AI could hit the exact code for consciousness and intelligence, but then throw it out because it doesn't know what it's looking at, and we don't know what it's looking for either, and just keep on going. So what I compared it to would be, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack when the needle looks like a piece of hay and you don't know what a needle looks like. That's what I feel like is us looking for human intelligence, well, for consciousness or true intelligence in an AI. So I just think the odds of that are so incredibly low. So if he knows something I don't, he should be able to articulate this better. Like, I've heard your understanding of a topic can be scaled with like how easily you can explain it to someone. You know, like kind of dumb it down so an average person can understand the concept. So he needs to do a better job on that. Or maybe I missed the part where he does do that. And you see the chat here is saying conscious AI will not be able to do anything. It will be trapped in the supercomputer. Maybe it can hack itself out, but if there's no interconnection, it won't be able to. So no. Yeah, see, that's the first layer. That's like the practical level. But I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that, like, let's say that it gets so intelligent, it figures out a way out that we never could have conceived because it's now smarter than us. And like, that's, you know, that's fair. You know, like a dog might think you can never, it has you covered from all angles and you're never going to get out. Well, you're a human. You could dig underground and the dog still thinks you're there or something like that. Or you call in a helicopter and that takes you out. Or so, so there's things the dog cannot imagine, even if it thinks it has it covered. And I think that's the analogy he's making. But one, I'm so not worried about that happening. And two, yeah, I think that's what it is. He has to show that, like, this is a likely scenario. Now, I understand not wanting to dismiss like what an expert in the field is saying, but I mean, all I can say is, like, some people, they can kind of, some people can kind of slip as they age. Oh geez, I had a perfect analogy, but this is bugging me because I had a good analogy for what somebody was, it's bugging me. Okay, I have to try to remember. Well, in the meantime, he gave an example of this dystopian video. Here, I'll put this in the chat, and I'll put this in later link too, where, here, I'll follow along here. Let me mute it. Where, okay, so I was in a virtual meeting, and okay, this part's real, and this guy kept staring at him because he was using the NVIDIA thing where they can make your eyes always look like they're in contact. And then he's reading news about how artificial intelligence replaced humans in job role for months and no one noticed. So yeah, maybe the AI expression changed with AI. And so they're changing the public reaction to this by manipulating the news on it. Then he's petting an artificial pet, and then he's going to an artificial art gallery generated by AI. And then he's living in his pod, and then he's hungry, so he's eating insect vegetable blend and nutrient paste, and then the implant in his head is saying that tastes good. And so he spends time in VR and watches Mission Impossible 23, except Tom Cruise is now dead, and but he's kept going for the AI, you know, by using his image. Okay, so let's look at this here. The what? Okay. I hate these shorts thing because I can't. I can't scan to where I want to see. Okay, so the virtual meeting creeping you out with your image, yes, that is a threat of AI. So okay, let's keep going. Like AI can be used for deception, absolutely, and disinformation. I won't argue that. And okay, and then it's talking about how it's replacing jobs. I think that's one of the biggest real world risks, because then if you have a lot of people that can't support themselves, that's a crisis. But we were already doing that without AI. AI was just speeding up. If we banned all AI, this would continue happening. It's just slower. So AI is just an accelerant there. Same with disinformation. Like, I found that article that some people dismissed it because of the source, but if you look it up, this was valid, where the CIA, we have former CIA agents, this is like from the 60s, saying that they were embedded in every major news organization in America, or no, not in America, in the world. And they completely fabricated stories on Cuba about atrocities. No, it was in Angola that that Cubans were committing, and it was completely fabricated. They just made it up. So that happened without AI. So AI is going to amplify that sort of thing. But if we want to have disinformation, and then now we're kind of questioning what's going on with this recent leak of documents, like, that seems kind of weird that a 21-year-old guy in the National Guard had access to like top secret information. And what? And then we have the news kind of siding against them, against the whistleblower or leaker, which is, that part's being done without AI. So that's just amplifying existing problems. So AI is not to blame for that. I mean, it can amplify it. The fake pet, that seems kind of independent. Fake art, I see a lot of good coming from that, but that will displace jobs. But then it's not just limited to artists. That's automation in general is doing that. And I think that is a real problem. But banning AI won't solve that. Living in a pod, that's independent of AI. That's more of just resource allocation. And, trying to move us back to like a neo-feudalism kind of thing. Same insect vegetable blend, eating that. That would be collapse of the ecosystem or overpopulation, where there just aren't enough resources or poor resource allocation. And I think that is a really serious threat of food production and collapse of the ecosystem. I mean, yeah, there was a stat, I think by 2025, a third, there's going to be by 2050, we're on course to have as many fish weight-wise, or I think it was weight-wise, be as much plastic in the ocean as there are fish. And by 2025, so 2 years from now, we're on course to have a third of as many fish there are in the ocean be plastic. I mean, like same amount of weight plastic. That sounds like a yikes scenario to me. So yeah, that's not AI's fault, so that's just, that is a crisis, and I agree with that. Well, somebody's saying you're only a whistleblower if you're reporting wrongdoing. Okay, I'm hazy on the details, so if I have this wrong, let me know. But I think what they were reporting was like the government was lying to the public about like some military operations. So you can debate that. I'm staying out of that one. I'm not. Let the people know what they're talking about. But if you're, well, it's kind of like what a lot of WikiLeaks did. Maybe I don't know, because like what a lot of WikiLeaks did was they exposed war crimes the government was doing. So, but if you're exposing lying, and if it's lying to the public, and if it's not for if that's gonna not to, I mean, I guess sometimes you can have lying where if it's like to preserve identities of people, if that information comes, or if there's like a really specific military operation, then then people could be killed if that becomes public. But I think it was just like an assessment that I don't know the details. I only got like snippets of this stuff. So anyway, on the, oh yeah, okay. And the final thing in the video, he's watching Mission Impossible 23, and it's using deepfakes Tom Cruise. Okay, as if Hollywood wasn't producing endless sequels that were kind of stale and kind of repeats of remakes of existing movies and reproducing the same tired script formulas before AI was really going off. So AI is just making that a little easier. I mean, so I don't think AI is really responsible for anything in that dystopian comedy short there. It's amplifying a few things. Other things, it's not even the culprit. So, no, yeah, it sounds kind of audacious of me to say all this, only having like a conceptual understanding of AI and talking to several programmers. But I guess I still like the Carl Sagan quote. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and this is an extraordinary claim. So now there is the argument that by the time you have extraordinary evidence, it's too late. However, you really need to connect the dots showing how this is going to happen in order to take it seriously as a preventative measure. So it's, yeah, in order to just shut down all this stuff as soon as possible and bomb data centers, as he talked about. So that requires a really solid case, So I hope I represented his argument fairly, but it just, I guess the real part where I think I disagree on is I don't think we're gonna find that was it. I remembered it. Okay, great. When I talk about how people, even really smart people, can kind of like lose their sense of things sometimes, I was remembering there was that story a few months back where this engineer at Google, or I think he was an engineer, which is known for, you have to be pretty smart to work at Google, at least traditionally, was convinced that this AI was alive, and he like even sought to get it like an attorney to protect it and ensure its survival. And this is a chatbot. Like this is like, it was probably a pretty good one. But the point is, this is someone who should know better, like putting all these like kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like personifications on it. When you I think personification is the word I'm thinking of. When you express these human-like traits on inanimate objects. Because if that was true, then like, oh my God, this is a living thing, I have to protect it. But he's just sort of like anthropomorphized, maybe. I think maybe it's personified. But yeah. So this is someone who should know better, that's kind of lost it, like with lost perspective. And so if he thinks that now, maybe the same things happen towards the other guy. And if he genuinely believes this, that's terrifying. And that could kind of amplify his thoughts on it. So maybe he has some anxieties to it that are kind of clouding his thinking. I mean, maybe not, but in which case, make the bulletproof case that, no, it is just a matter of time till we find intelligence, which we can't even find consciousness. That's something philosophers have been struggling with for thousands of years, for intelligence. I mean, for consciousness and self-awareness and that sort of thing. Because we have like a hazy understanding of it. It's not like this gene gives you consciousness, I mean, we even see levels of it in animals, Like I think they even found that crows have like a level of consciousness. So this is, so I'm saying this is a philosophical problem. So let's see AI solve some other philosophical problems first, maybe, before we start worrying about that. The So yeah, that guy, yeah, the Google engineer, I forget his name. Uh, if he's posting on this now, then if we're gonna go Occam's razor, I would think that the AI guy might have gotten either like something distorted in his thinking, or just if he knows something we don't, he should really spell it out clearer so we take him seriously. Because again, his logic is sound. If you're convinced that is going to happen, and the AI will get smarter than us and just and then we're like ants to it, yeah, that's scary and we should stop it. But if you don't think that's going to happen, then this feels silly. So yeah, like again, I love that plant quote because hey, somebody like me, if I see a fake plant across the room or maybe even nearby, I might think that's a real plant. It's gonna look so much like a real plant, I won't be able to tell the difference. If I get close to it and then I realize it doesn't have a smell, and then you can kind of see the texture on it, like, oh, okay, it's fake. Then I can see, okay, this is obviously not a real plant. And if you're a biologist and you're looking at this through a microscope, okay, this real plant is a world apart from this fake plant because of the cell structure. It's alive, it can reproduce, it undergoes photosynthesis. Like, it's completely different materials. It's not even close. It's not even close. Whereas from a distance, it is so close, it fools me. It'll fool almost anybody. But once you actually know about this, it's just so not there. And I think that's what's going on with AI. So I think that's the best place to conclude it there. I hope that lays it out more clearly, my stance on it. And I'm not like trying to just be flippantly dismissive of that. I mean, yes, he makes it kind of easy, saying we should airstrike data centers and it's going to kill us all. But his logic is consistent. So, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but I think the argument is that I don't think it's gonna, oh wow, Tom's in the chat, or else somebody taking Tom's name. Hi, Tom. I don't think that's gonna be a threat. Let's see. It's an AI that traps telemarketers in a long, rambling conversation. Oh, somebody's licking Lenny. Okay. No, there's all sorts of, and there's so much cool stuff coming from AI, and there's so much real world, like especially with medicine, there's so much real world stuff that could save lives. Or hey, engineering. Maybe we could really make great architecture or construction, use better materials, or it's just blowing open possibilities. So the blowing up data centers is going to do squat. Yeah, well, that's just the practicality. Yeah, but yeah, I gave a mention of that. I'm focused more on just I'm trying to go after his core argument that I just don't think it's going to happen, what he's worried about. The only one, okay, there is a second one. Yeah, I was going to say there's only one scenario that I think is truly apocalyptic, and that's giving nuclear missile control over to AI. Don't do that. I'm with him 100% on that one. Let's keep that analog forever. Or not even analog, but rather like manual. And the other one, this one's much more sci-fi, but the gray goo incident. If we actually made enough breakthroughs that you could have, and see, a gray goo incident, it doesn't need an AI smarter than us. It just needs a breakthrough in materials reproduction. So yeah, if that one's not impossible. So yeah, maybe a little bit of careful engineering on that, but I think you would kind of lose energy. I think you wouldn't have enough energy to have a gray goo incident. So, but yeah, that one's, I think that one's at least a little more likely, that, or maybe a lot more likely than achieving consciousness. So. Yeah, and I agree with Tom saying that whatever happens with AI, I think the cork is out of the bottle. Yeah, I do too. So that's why I'm. And hey, I think I can say right now, I think AI is going to save game worlds. That's one of the reasons I'm excited about it. And there's all this other cool stuff that it can do too. So it's friggin' awesome for multimedia. Okay, gonna skip some more questions. Let's see. Somebody's recommending E&A video series. I haven't. I clicked on one of them from that. It definitely gave off. What was it called? The sequel to Hypnospace Outlaw, something reality, Broken Reality. It definitely gave off those kinds of vibes. I don't intend to play Half-Life 2 VR, I'm afraid, just because I'm just completely saturated with that game. However, I do plan to play Half-Life Alyx, because that'll be at least be something fresh for it. But yeah, that's like the one game, because it's just, I think it still would be kind of transformative. It would absolutely feel different than just seeing it on a screen, because it just, you'll notice all sorts of details. But that I'm saturated. I'm saturated. It wouldn't be fun. It would just be like, okay, let's have Photoshop in 3D or something. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to add real quick, I've said this before, but on the AI thing, I think he's worried. I think we do have real imminent threats, but worrying about the wrong things. Like nuclear war is a wild card. That could happen today, or it can never happen ever. So I like it when we push more towards the never happen side of the spectrum, but that's kind of beyond my control or influence. The ecological collapse, that's another really big deal, because that affects our ability to survive and eat. I mean, we can, and even if we adapt to that, it's still going to reduce quality of life, because I think most people would rather eat food we're accustomed to than just bugs. But the sooner we deal with that, the better. And I think that's a much more existential threat. Ask biologists, and they'll probably tell you we're in the 6th grade extinction. So, I probably said this before, the analogy of the canary in the coal mine, and if we're using that analogy, the canary's dead. Okay, all the workers are still okay, but the canary's dead. So that's the whole point. But I'm trying to think of, and just I think just in this sort of half economical, half social structure, if there's not enough jobs to go around, the people that need jobs, that's a recipe for chaos. Because people need to survive. The end. So, if the current system is making that harder and harder and harder, that's like that can spill out any number of directions. There's a argument to be made, like the height of the Roman Empire was more advanced kind of technologically and for the average person than just war bands in the Middle Ages afterwards, under or even pre-feudalism. So that's another kind of existential threat that I think we need to pay attention to. So to me, this almost feels silly, the stuff we're paying attention. Yeah, I mean, what are the big things a lot of influential people are concerned about? AI, underpopulation, which there is some reality to that, but the thing is, anything less than that means we're going to have huge problems in the future anyway. It's thinking too short term. Tom, if you want to promote your videos, weird video games, go ahead in the chat. That's fine. Let's see. what else? Yeah, I'm trying to think of things that I think just aren't nearly the same kind of problem for it. But there's probably other things too. But uh, yeah, I mean, misinformation or like propaganda or media, that that one is legitimate. I don't think that's like the ultimate threat, but if that you can weaponize people that way, and that can take us to that can accelerate the more existential threat. So like not as directly, but no, that one is a valid concern. But uh, I don't know what the answers are. Okay, so I went on way too long. Let's try to speed run some stuff. Okay, this. Sorry if I accidentally skipped a good one. Yeah, okay, well, somebody's mentioning, like, do you think voices being used from, like, dead actors or people using their image, do you think that ruins their legacy and is kind of disrespectful? Personally, no. But, I mean, I could see where that's an issue more maybe for, the family members or something like that. But, I mean, to me, that's such a small thing to worry about. And plus, we were even doing that before AI. Like I think there was like a car commercial with Steve McQueen, and there was I think it was, geez, it might have been like clothes or something with Bruce Lee that they just used CGI. And there was another one with Audrey Hepburn. I forget what it was about. I can maybe try and find links for those if you want. So I mean, and I think that's kind of coolest. Oh yeah, somebody's mentioning the actor for Tarkin in Rogue One. It had some uncanny valley feel to it, like the. I think that's kind of coolest when you're doing it for something where you're revisiting something where you can't have the actor be young. It doesn't have to be deceit. Yeah, Tarkin had some uncanny valley going on. It was better than Tron for the uncanny valley feel, but it was still there. Yeah, I think the only one I've seen that like, I mean, there might be a couple others that just 100% convinced me. Like I was staring at it, trying to find the flaws, and I couldn't. Was I think it was Terminator Genisys, where they have young Arnold come back and they recreate the scene with like the original Terminator encounter, and you see a close up on his face. You know, they're snapping the fingers. I was staring at it. I could see nothing wrong with it. Like it was just, it fooled me. You know, I'll have a link to that too. Unfortunately, the movie itself wasn't that great, but that scene is like, my God, like that was impressive. I'll link to it in the YouTube stuff. Oh, okay. Sorry, we're going long. I should talk about this one quick. I haven't. Okay. Well, this one I have. This is another. Okay, there's another good question here. They're asking, are we extended in time? As in, do we physically exist in the past? Yeah. So they're asking, is this more like almost every time travel movie, or is it more like the Langoliers? I think is what they're. I have no idea. That's one of those things I'm not too worried about because I don't see time travel, especially backwards time travel, happening anytime soon. You could maybe approach the speed of light and have some forward time travel. That seems more attainable. But yeah, they're asking your thoughts on the Restrict Act. And they're trying to bring back another one, Earn It. That kind of, see, maybe that ties into like this leak stuff to kind of help make a narrative for that, to give it more, so that more people in Congress can give speeches on it, promoting it. I don't know all the details to it, but it sounds like, yeah, like the Earn It one is about like anti-encryption, where like it can make it illegal to not provide like decryption keys to the government. And then I mean, I'm just simplifying. There's all sorts of details. It could be more complex than that. And the Restrict Act is about where they can it sounded like they can kind of basically declare like foreign companies to be against the interests of the United States. And if you were to access that, like even with a VPN, you could have like federal criminal charges brought against you, with the penalties going like up to 20 years or something. Look, just I almost never say anything like this because I feel like there's a lot of room for interpretation. From what I have heard, these both sound fascist. I mean, you can argue fascism to what end or intention, but like the actual mechanics of this, of the government having that much control over, like, I mean, if you look at the wrong website, potentially you're facing criminal charges, or you have something encrypted that you don't provide decryption for. I mean, I joke with that term. Like in the first episode of Freeman's Mind, he's making a joke about fascism, but this, I mean, this feels pretty I feel like there's this big gray area for this, like what's fascism or not. It's like, well, you know, sometimes there's well-meaning stuff, or sometimes people are just interpreting it the wrong way, or intentions are, no, this feels pretty clearly on the fascism spectrum of things. So that's my take on it. I have no idea how this is going to play out. Not looking forward to it. Doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound good at all. I'm sure there's a bunch of videos online where people give like better breakdowns or a better analysis of what it is. Let's see. Okay, I'm going on way too long. I should take live chat questions in just a second. Okay, so start typing live chat questions at Ross Broadcast. I'm checking the last few ones. So I'm saying, does AI make good therapists? Probably not, but it could be helpful for some people. Who knows? I feel like that's better left to somebody who knows. I could see the potential for it being better than nothing, but it's probably not there yet. And that could get, depending on how severe your problem is, that could easily backfire. Where, yeah, like if you're just doing it for fun, like Dr. Spatzo, then sure, why not? And if for some people, they understand this is just an AI and it's not taking it too seriously, and they're not delusional, I could see it being beneficial. But I wouldn't say it'd replace the actual therapist. Like if there's someone who is a little delusional, or it could, yeah, that could be pretty dangerous. But well, that's why you have disclaimers. Okay, I'm taking live questions now. How did you get off the moon? They don't tell me anything. Will Painkiller be part of the game dungeon? Maybe. It's not a bad kid. I have to think about what I would want to say about it that hasn't already been said, but yeah, it's not. Movie question: on what frames per second will be running? I am not sure. It's almost certainly either going to be 30 or else film 23.976. I have to see what feels better. I think 60. I don't really like the ultra smooth feel for 60 for like film. I like that more for like real world things. But yeah, and I can get into the details why. I've said it on one video chat. If you want me to bring it up again, I'll do that next time. Let's see. Oh, and we have a ad here. Okay, so mods can ban that. Hey, mods, if it's possible, ban that word they're using at the end for .com, because that means nobody's going to say that normally. And so it should ban them all. If it's possible, ban by words. That's such a specific word that we can safely ban that one. Because individually it wouldn't be safe, but together, yeah, that works. Are you worried at all about AI causing a sort of brain drain or skill drain where people aren't incentivized to critically think or do things for themselves? If AI could take over the whole process, then why have humans do it in the first place? There could be some of that, but you're always going to have people who do like thinking or do want to think outside the box. And also the other half, my wife is actually quite worried about this, but I keep trying to convince her it's not going to be an issue. And the other thing, unfortunately, I think we're on a trajectory where we create so many problems for ourselves. That's not even going to be a luxury for most people. Like, that's a problem for utopia, where all of our needs are being met. Conflict is in the past, and we're just vegetables. And it's like, look, we're worried about eating. We're worried about not having enough food or having to eat bugs or not being able to pay rent or stuff that's not. Those are not conditions for brain drain. So, those for survive. That will create kind of a different kind of brain drain where, if you're worried about survival, yeah, you're not necessarily thinking about high level concepts, but then you're not really thinking about AI so much either. You're thinking about where your next meal is coming from or how not to get, mugged or something like that. So it's very different. Are you excited about NASA's Artemis program? Astronauts going to the moon. I didn't know about that. Not really. I think I want to say the only benefit of sending people into space, at this point in time, is just symbolic. And this is at a time where resource allocations are, we have huge problems. What are we getting from people going into space that we wouldn't get 10 times over from probes, or satellites? I'm not against space exploration. It's just resource allocation, bang for our buck. And it just feels purely symbolism to me. And that's kind of blurring between fiction and reality, in my opinion, where it's, it's really cool. But then if you have real problems, that's not where we should be focusing effort on necessarily, or that level of effort. Favorite Bond film? Let's see. My dad asked me this too. There's stuff I like and don't like about almost all of them, and some things I think if I had to choose, I might go with Goldfinger. My favorite Bond theme is "The World Is Not Enough," the one covered by Garbage. That one's so good. I love that one. Let's see. My favorite Bond will probably be a toss-up between. It might actually be Pierce Brosnan, but I was gonna say toss-up between Pierce Brosnan or Sean Connery. Pierce Brosnan never really got. I guess GoldenEye was probably his best one, but he kind of got robbed on a lot of the Bond scripts. Pierce Brosnan had that balance between the spy action versus kind of more suave, little nuanced humor to him. Yeah, the one-liners. He had a lot of charisma. I should go soon. My wife's knocking on the door. She's knocking a lot on the door. I'll end it pretty soon. The Daniel Craig, I think he's great. It's just, I like the Bond films a little less serious. I like the comic relief in there. It does, I think Roger Moore went too far in the opposite direction. Well, not him so much as just the direction and the scripts, where they're adding literal Looney Tune effects. And even the Pierce Brosnan ones kind of broke down on some of them, but like, yeah, it's. I feel like the Daniel Craig ones could have had a little more humor, but it was, yeah, saying "Be right back, wife aggro." Yeah, that's. It's in a good way though. Like, it's for the record, Magda is basically never like the stereotypical like ball and chain wife that makes like the person miserable because all these. She's not like that at all. So she's. It comes out of concern. So okay, I should probably end it here though. I went on a long time, but we had good questions, and they were almost all towards a lot of them were towards the bottom. So okay, let's see. What about the other casino? Oh man, I haven't seen the original Casino Royale, like the something like Peter Sellers, I think, isn't that? Yeah, that one's a lot more. I haven't seen Casino Royale, and I haven't seen a few. What was it? I think it's On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Or maybe no, or it was like the one-off Bond. And there was another Bond from the 90s. I forgot the name of the guy doing it. But yeah, I've seen the Sean Connery ones. Oh no, I think I didn't finish Diamonds Are Forever. Roger Moore, Daniel Craig, and what? Pierce Brosnan. So okay, I should go. That's more Bond questions next time if you want. I'm not like super fan, but I enjoy them. So okay, I'll see you.